The good times start now. Here are your hosts, Andy and Elsten, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Great Monday to you, San Diego. We are back, your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station. It's Annie and Elsten live on 97.3 The Fan alongside Braden Soprenic. Craig Elsten here. This is another Annie-free day. I regret to inform you. Annie is busy with the San Diego Sports Association. Big board meeting happening right now. Planning for the Salute to Champions that's taking place on February 5th. She was out on Friday. I think she's going to be out this Friday again. It's great to have the banker's hours that Annie Heilbrunn gets to work on this show. But Braden, we're here posting up again for 4 hours of live local sports talk radio.
That's right. Don't we have technically banker's hours 10 to 2? Is that the banker time that we like to do?
but when you only have to do it 3 times, it's like
that's true. That's true.
Executive hours is more like
she's the executive of the show, so she gets to do the executive hours on the air. But should be a good time. I'm just glad we got into the building as quickly as possible.
Oh my goodness!
During the downpour that was this morning, and then I got extra stuff that I gotta get done. Got a lot of our new features that we have coming up this week that will have imaging, hopefully done by the end of the day today. So I'm going to sit in this building for a long period of time tonight, and hopefully the rain passes just as much as I did on Friday and Saturday. I've been basically living in this building the last couple of days.
Yeah, the Braden Soprenic show got its debut on Saturday morning, 11 to 1. And then, of course, we had NFL action all weekend long. But let's start right there, Braden, with just a note to anybody who's out right now in the deluge in San Diego. If you're listening from somewhere else, I know it's fun to make fun of San Diegans for freaking out when it rains, but let's be perfectly honest and truthful. Our roadways, our highways, a lot of our surface streets are not designed to carry water. They are designed to hold water, as in flooding, and it's bad out there right now. Just driving the 8 on the way here, I saw someone up the embankment. So I'm just wanted to say to you right now, if you want to call me a scold or a scorn, it's fine. Take a look at your speedometer if you're in the car now. And if it's anything over 50, consider slowing down. Consider slowing down. No matter how good your tires are, no matter how much grip your sports vehicle has, understand that it's not just you, it's everyone else that's out there. I was watching people get blindsided on the opposite side of the freeway this morning, Braden. People driving the 8 West too fast in the fast lane, shooting a plume of water that actually went over the partition and was hitting cars in the fast lane going east. And there's nothing like getting a surprise blinding of a sheet of water across your windshield when you're humming along 65 or 75 miles an hour on the I-8 when it's kind of just hydroplane central. So everyone be careful. You always hear Kelly Danick say it in the mornings, but it's so true. Just take the time today, limp your way to wherever you got to be. And if you can be inside and be listening to us, even better to just stay out of it altogether.
Yeah, it's not really fun. There's a couple, especially when you're getting on and off the freeway. There's a lot of water that is staying in those spots. I mean, just getting off 15 on Arrow Drive, there was a couple times where I couldn't even see like the type of water that I went through in my sports car. So I usually am a guy that drives fast in a fast car, but even on days like today, I'm definitely under the threshold that Craig insinuated at. And I was driving the day and I looked down and somebody passed me and I was like, how fast are they going? Because I'm going like right around 50 and they just went right past me on the freeway. But just take it slow. There's obviously a lot of water at a small amount of time out there on the roadways. So little sketch a couple of times, but hopefully it'll lighten it up.
Yeah, just stay slow, stay vigilant in being slow today. Drive grandma style. It's great. It's actually not bad. It's going to take you 10 extra minutes as opposed to, I mean, I'm telling you, man, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later in the show. I kind of almost ironically, when we get to what's good, Saturday, it started raining, right? And I had social plans Saturday afternoon and I went out and on the 8, I witnessed the worst accident I've ever seen in terms of being right there for an aftermath. 3 cars up the embankment at the base of College. You know, when you're coming on the 8 and you go down that hill by College, and it's always, always filled with water when it's raining. It's one of the places that immediately holds water. So people always go too fast. They always hydroplane at the base of the hill. And it was like a 6-car wreck spinning up into the embankment. One car completely toppled on its roof. Maybe it looked like 8 to 10 affected. And, you know, when you get to an accident just a few minutes before the cops and the firefighters and the ambulance, that's what it was on the 8. And it was a horrific scene. And it's just a reminder, like, nothing's worth it. Nothing is worth it to think, oh, I'm 3 minutes late to an appointment or anything, to wind up overturned and your life in danger. So be careful. Be careful. Grandpa Craig over here. Not a grandpa yet, but giving you grandpa advice, but I think it's good advice. All right, we got a lot of fun things to talk about today, Braden. Once again, we can just say off the top, none of them have anything to do with the San Diego Padres. Another quiet weekend, all quiet on the Western Front. We had the signings of Hader and Carpenter on Friday, and maybe Friday again we'll get another signing. Maybe it's once a week on Friday that one thing happens in Major League Baseball.
I was told that a lot of players might be signing in February. Little birdie told me that, so take that for what it's worth. Maybe that's the big mark for everyone moving forward is, you know, once February rolls around, some of these players are going to be like, up, time to go, because the spring training starts this month. Time to go sign places. But, I mean, you see some of these big-time free agents. I mean, Blake Snell coaching a travel ball team, which I think is super cool. I love when the athletes give back, and I think he's having a great time. I'm obviously, as a coach, a big advocate for anybody that has always thought about coaching that's a former athlete of any type of level, to go out there and coach. It's such a rewarding experience, and I'm glad Blake Snell is really enjoying himself. But he's chilling right now. He doesn't seem like he's in a big hurry to sign anywhere. He wants to make sure he gets the deal that he's looking for, and I think a lot of the free agents are like that right now, especially when they see some of the money that's being thrown about in this year's offseason market. So patience is a virtue, and I think that's what the players and the organizations are going with. So us as fans have to be a little bit patient ourselves.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it at all.
From a talk show host perspective, yeah, it sucks. There's nothing to talk about.
It's awful and just paralyzing. And we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And every day that you wait, nature abhors a vacuum. So does the recesses of your mind. You're thinking, is this it? Do I really have to steel myself to Jose Azocar getting 750 plate appearances this year as our everyday center fielder? Are we going to play a 2-man outfield? Like these are the thoughts we have.
It's possible. That might be where they're at right now. I tend to doubt it. But
probably
at the
not.
same
Probably
time, but
probably
even if you decide, I was about to say, even if you decide that we're okay with Jose Azocar being the everyday center fielder, who's playing left field? I mean, you still have an option. You still have an opening there. I put the roster down depth chart on our sheet the first week, and I've had to make 0 changes.
Yeah, no changes at all
for the last 2 weeks.
Just sits there.
And it's just like guys, even guys on the bench are guys that probably shouldn't be on a playoff caliber bench. I mean, guys like, Brett Sullivan and Topeka Marcano and Eggy Rosario and Matthew Batten. I mean, good for them if they can make a major league club, but those players are not on playoff caliber teams. And if there's only one of them on a playoff caliber squad. And currently that is your bench, but that means you have nobody in center field, nobody in left field, nobody playing first base, nobody DHing.
So far on this free agent list that you've put on the bottom of our rundown, numbers 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 14's gone. That's just, how about that? 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9 out of the top 10 are all still available.
All still available on Jim Bowden's top 40 list that he put out back in November. That's incredible to me.
I'm still looking for Carlos Santana down at 25.
Hey, Tommy Pham's available.
Hyunjin Ryu, number 35. I'm all about these. Maybe James Paxton. We've talked about all these players. I'm tired of talking about all of these players. I don't know which one of them is going to be a Padre. I suspect one or maybe none will be. And when they are, we'll figure it out. We've got plenty of other things to talk about. Just wanted to note, we're a Padres station. We're a Padres show on a Padres station, and there's no Padres news again today. That does mean Let's Make a Trade will happen later in the show, the only segment that AJ Preller can personally cancel and has refused to do so. Also, at 12 o'clock, we'll hit reset on the show with the 12 o'clock sports fix. We'll let you know not only all the big news from the weekend that was, but also anything that's broken over the course of this morning. We'll have Braden's football segment in review coming up. Opportunity to go back and take a look at a very, for the most part, very entertaining divisional round. 3 pretty darn good games out of the 4. The Baltimore game got away at the end. That one wasn't super entertaining, but the other 3 quite entertaining. So we'll talk about that. We'll check that out. We'll wrap up the show with Ask Us Anything. Coming up this hour, we'll talk about the best of the weekend in our regular Monday segment. What's good? And what's good could involve the football as well. It blows my mind, Braden, after what we just drove through, that the Farmers Insurance Open is this week. In fact, it starts in 2 days.
Yeah, they usually start their earlier rounds now, right? Or like tomorrow.
Yeah, should be the Pro-Am tomorrow.
Yeah, and see that's the downside of the everything moved up a day, so they can have the Farmers end on Saturday, so they can just strictly air playoff football on Sunday. I've heard a lot of people like this kind of format. I personally don't, just because as somebody that works 10 to 2, it's tough to get over. By the time I get over there, everybody's done, right? And I'm not going to go in the morning and then rush down from Torrey down to Serra Mesa to get to work on time. So that already like 2 days are already eliminated. Or I could go like Friday after the show, where I only missed Thursday, and then you still got moving day on Saturday, where you could be able to go out there and watch. But some people like it. I think it's the people like taking 3 days off of work to go to a golf tournament.
Exactly. I mean, I get they want to stay out of the window of the championship game.
Right, I get
Sunday,
it. I get it from a TV perspective for sure. Absolutely.
TV rules the world. But it should be a fun tournament. It's just going to be crazy how soft the course is going to be on Wednesday, because it's going to be soaked through, all day today. And according to what I've seen, a good portion of tomorrow as well, before this clears out. And then there should be no rain for the tournament itself. That's what the current forecasts show. But the impact on the course, it could lower scores early in the week as the course plays softer and maybe a little bit more forgiving.
Especially with that course. Holy cow.
Yeah, you got to go play that recent. I mean, Scraby went on media day.
Yeah, media guys got to go. I mean, I've played on media days multiple times, and it is hellish course. It's very difficult, because any ball that's in the rough is gone. Forget about it. There's nobody out there marking it with a little flag. It's gone. Just move on and hold your pride, because it plays so different than when you play it during the regular year. I mean, we played it the regular year. It's like, oh, this is kind of obtainable. But then you play the media day, and it's just like, oh man, this sucks. And then all the stadium seats are up, so you're just sitting there envisioning yourself getting booed as you hit the ball into on the other green of a different hole.
Sam Fleming asks in the chat, who you got to win, Craig? I like the low score to win this weekend.
There you go. Oh wow, they're going on a limb there.
I think the low score is probably the winner, and I'm going to go with that. All right, we are just getting underway with today's show. Just getting settled in. Again, please be careful if you are forced to be out in the elements today. Flash flood warning now in effect for San Diego all the way till 1 o'clock today. Avoid all the Mission Valley roads. They are a mess right now. Just avoid everything. Avoid everything other than just staying right here. We're going to talk some Aztecs basketball when we come back, plus what's good. It's all ahead. Annie and Elsten on your new midday hang. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And Kim crosses the plate. You can listen to every Padres game along with all the music and news that San Diego needs right here on the Odyssey app. Download it today.
I'm Chelsea Messenger, helping you beat the books with BetQL. The Canucks lead the Pacific Division by 7 points and are hosting Chicago, a team with only 103 total goals on the season. The Canucks have only given up 119 goals this year, one of the best marks in the league. Today's 5-star best bet on the ice is to take the under between the Canucks and the Blackhawks. I'm Chelsea Messenger. Bet smarter and beat the books with BetQL, and download the BetMGM app today.
January is no time for the same old meals. HelloFresh is here to kickstart 2024 with enticing flavors and fresh ingredients paired with easy-to-follow recipes and delivered to your door. They'll keep your taste buds guessing with their most expansive menu yet. Over 45 delicious recipes to choose from each week. Right now, get free breakfast for life with code RadioBreakfast at HelloFresh.com/RadioBreakfast. That's one free breakfast item per box while subscription is active with code RadioBreakfast at HelloFresh.com/RadioBreakfast.
Hey guys, Matt Coker here with West Coast Men's Health. If you have erectile dysfunction and you're tired of taking Viagra and nothing else has worked, then you need to try acoustic wave therapy. Our technology is highly effective at restoring function by clearing out your arteries and increasing blood flow, which is the true secret of a more permanent solution to your ED or Peyronie's disease. West Coast Men's Health
Yes, now you got me bopping. I like this. Been waiting for the new music to come in. It was like throwing the tablet into the ocean. We had to wait for it to come back.
I don't know what the problem was. You know what it was? I tried to add it to the other playlist. For some reason, I guess with our system, it doesn't specify, but on the thing, it literally, I don't think, it doesn't say, but I've just discovered that you have a max per rotator. And so you have to make other ones. And so I was like, I got to make a new one. And I was making a bunch of stuff for my show on Saturday while Adam was doing logs. And he was like, oh, do you got a new music bed thing for Annie and Elsten? I said, as a matter of fact, I do. Throw it in there. We got some new stuff. So all the stuff that Craig requested's in there. I threw him some of my own stuff. This is something that I like. I'm still waiting on Annie.
Though. This one could have been me.
It's called China.
Yeah, I think I put in my music list any Kendrick instrumental. That's for Annie.
Yeah,
I mean, I love Kendrick Lamar too, but she's a big fan. So
she said Taylor Swift too. I was like,
Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar, which I expect to play together at the Super Bowl one day in a very strange mashup. Seems like something the Grammys would do. Coming up, Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar presenting Best New Artists.
Well, based on how the Super Bowl picks halftime shows, it's usually catered to the people that spend the most money, which is usually older generations. So,
yes,
probably in the next 30 years, we would get the Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar halftime show, and all the kids in high school and college would be like, "Who are these people?"
Right. When millennials become olds, we will have the Taylor Swift.
Yeah. When the millennial and Gen Z are the older generations, then you're gonna get the Kendrick Lamar, Taylor Swift halftime show live from Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego.
Oh wow! Okay,
there you go.
Wow, we've expanded. Things have changed.
That's
this
right.
is a bright new future.
It's great.
I'm excited for this future world. I hope that I get to live in it one day. Annie and Elsten, minus Annie today. Annie Halbern off for today. She'll be back for a full 4-hour show tomorrow. Craig and Braden here with you until 2 o'clock when Gwen and Chris take over. We're thankful for everyone who checks out the show every day. We are live, of course, on 97.3. We are live on the Odyssey app worldwide. So if you happen to not have that app, you might want to download it on your phone. AUDACY. Also, we are live on YouTube. We are a YouTube show alongside being a radio show. We're here 4 hours every day on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. So if you happen to be there, click like on the video, please. We appreciate your engagement in the chat. It does help drive people to the show. And once again, we're a new show, and we thank everybody who is an early adopter of Annie and Elsten, and particularly putting up with us on these Annie-free days. We understand. We wish she was here too. So it's all good. But we got plenty to talk about today. And let's get into a little college basketball here in this segment, Braden, before we get to what's good at the bottom of the hour. What's good was not the Aztecs result. I didn't get to watch the game. I'll explain that a little more in what's good. But nonetheless, kind of a classic Aztecs loss to me. I hate to take that 20,000-foot view of it, Braden, but when the Aztecs lose, it's usually in conference. It's usually on the road. It's usually a CBS morning window for kids who might practice at 10 and instead are asked to be in game mode at really 8 a.m. so that they can be on the court at 10 a.m., a game where there's some questionable call along the way, and inevitably the Aztecs going 5 to 6 minutes without scoring a bucket. And it was down the stretch in the second half at Boise State that the Aztecs didn't score a bucket. And then they hit a couple threes at the very, very end of the game, but it was too little too late. Winds up being a 1-point loss. But Boise State holding serve on their home court after they had lost earlier in the week at home, it was the predictable result.
Well, it's another unfortunate thing for San Diego State where you're playing a team that is not that Joe Lenardi is in charge of everything, but according to him, Boise State was one of those teams that was one of the first 4 out, just like New Mexico was the week before. And both of those teams needed that. See, in terms of Mountain West victories, there's not a better one for you in building your resume than beating San Diego State. And so that's the top notch. Not only does everybody want to beat the Aztecs because they've been the best team in the Mountain West for the last 15 to 20 years, but it's also the biggest win you're going to get to improve your overall resume to make the NCAA tournament where you don't need to win the Mountain West tournament in Vegas coming up in March. And all the teams know that. I mean, those are great opportunities. And they also know it's going to be very difficult to get the job done at Viejas Arena as compared to their home arenas. So you're going to get everybody's best shot anyway. And the Aztecs, I mean, a valiant effort down the stretch, but as you mentioned, it was a typical San Diego State Aztec basketball game, and you're going to see those in conference play, especially on the road. But the rule of thumb is if you can win your games at home and kind of go 50-50 on the road, you're going to be in a good spot. And for San Diego State, you drop 2 of them obviously in conference play on the road. Doesn't mean that you're out of it, and everybody else in the conference continues to battle each other. And Aztecs are only 1 game out of first place. Still get to play Utah State later on in the season.
Aztecs have a home game tomorrow against Wyoming. A little bit later in the show, we'll have some Aztecs basketball tickets to give away to that game. A 6:00 start. CBS continuing to jerk around with the boys, but at least this time it's not 8:00. They got the 6:00 window on CBS Sports Network tomorrow. Much appreciated to get out of the you either play at 8 at night or 10 in the morning rhythm that the Aztecs have been in for the last couple of weeks. Good to see.
Thanks for the bone.
Change.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, you can play 1 game at 6. It's cool.
It's cool.
It's all right.
What is the best time for all of your clientele? Hey, yeah, it'd be great.
Don't get used to it though.
Especially with that's the down part about the best. We talked about that last week with just times of games in general. The best time I thought is usually 5:00. I think especially for a football game. And especially start talking about Snapdragon Stadium. I mean, but they don't get those. They get the 7:30 games where none of the college students want to go because they're already getting ready to go to parties and stuff. And you can't have families with little kids go because they're gonna be past their bedtime, even though it's a Saturday night. And a lot of people that are exhausted from the night before that are involved with high school sports. The best time's 5, and unfortunately on the West Coast, it's the prime time spot for the likes of the SEC and everything. Or, Craig, you can play at 12 noon, and we know how well that worked out.
It just seems every time you look at that game, you go, on the road, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Yep. It's going to be the one they lose.
That's right.
And then they lose that one, and you go, okay.
Like I said before, it'd be
go.
nice for them to win one of these national televised games that are on the main TV, so you can get some respect, even though it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's nice to have people tune in because then you get the mantra like I have about Notre Dame football. It's like every time they're in the playoff, they seem to lose, even though every year is a different year. You might get that national mantra. Well, every time I watch San Diego State on CBS, they lose. I don't know. I don't understand how this team's so great. You get those people on the East Coast that don't watch the Aztecs every single night like we do.
I'm not surprised you're a Notre Dame fan.
I'm not
the first time that just came out.
I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I hate Notre Dame.
Oh, you do hate Notre Dame?
I hate Notre Dame with a passion, and I used to get ribbed all the time. Like, how can you be Catholic and not root for Notre Dame? That's a big reason why I hate Notre Dame is because it's just like, all Catholics,
because you're Catholic?
All Catholics
this is a self-loathing thing.
All Catholics must love Notre Dame. I disagree. I don't like Notre Dame. I've never liked Notre Dame. I have a hatred for Notre Dame.
Okay,
I'm tired of watching them. It's just I'm tired of they get the benefit of the doubt for everything because they were good back in the 70s and 60s and 70s in college football.
My dad's still his 2 favorite teams are USC and whoever's playing Notre Dame.
You know what? That's fair. If you're you grew up in the LA area, right?
Yeah. Grew up in Long Beach.
Exactly. So you'd be a USC fan. Don't get me started on what I'm very strict when it comes. I very much gatekeep on who you can root for and who you can't. I have stipulations. Otherwise, I think you're a bandwagoner.
Fair.
So I don't get me on that diatribe. I mean, I can go through it. People get all upset and stuff. I'm just like, dude, it's just you can root for the team. Just understand that I think you're a bandwagoner and don't be upset about it.
It's fine. I'm just saying, because you were a coach at Cathedral Catholic. At first, I was just like, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't fit the stereotype, Craig. I got a kick out of the stereotype. I'm not a big Notre Dame fan. And you know what? It's sad. It's like there's this older lady that is a big fan of the station, and every time she comes to station events, she's so upset that I, as a fellow Catholic, do not like Notre Dame. It kills her. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't like the Golden Domers. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. You know what my 12-year-old said to me this weekend, Braden?
What?
He's really starting to think about high school now.
Oh.
As a 7th grader, he is really starting to think about high school. And he told me that currently Cathedral Catholic is number 1 on his list.
As it should be.
And then Mater Dei is 2. And I believe he said a fallback to the even more expensive St. Augustine would be 3. And my response was, have you considered public school?
Public school also great.
Consider we would maybe move neighborhoods just to get you into the Helix feeder. Can I consider something where I'm not paying things we paid from kindergarten
Well,
through 8th grade?
You decided to send him to private Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade. So now all of his friends are going to
I
the
know.
Catholic schools.
I know.
You made the commitment when he was in kindergarten, Craig. Now you're gonna have to deal with that.
Marry a Catholic, pay the Catholic price.
Everybody's got but the best thing about the Catholic schools do a really good job of handing out financial aid, especially for
talk radio hosts.
Well, individuals that, I mean, if your kid has good grades and is a good upstanding citizen, you're going to get financial aid. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. And all of the schools in town, all Mater Dei, St. Augustine, OLP for the girls, and Cathedral do a great job of getting families into their school that absolutely really want to be there. So I'm letting you know right now, Craig, there are opportunities for your son to go to any of those schools that he wishes to go to.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. As soon as I heard him talking all through it and having a list, I said, remember that whole last year that every single time I invited you to either come to the range or go golfing with me that you turned me down? You got 2 years, kid. Get out the sticks. Let's get going.
Hey,
you got 2 years to get good enough to be on the golf team.
You could do it. I mean, I know the golf coach and everything. They play at some, I'm telling you right now, Cathedral plays at they got some nice home courses that they play. I think Santa Luz is their home course, if I'm not mistaken.
Jeez Louise.
So you got to get into it, Craig. You got to have them apply. If you need a tour, let me know. If you need a shadow, let me know. If you want a tour, I can sell it to you.
Brother. It's all coming.
I am the best. Coming. I am the best promoter for the Dons and for the Horned Frogs that doesn't get paid to do that. So
I was a product of the Long Beach public school system, and
it's great too.
Turned out just fine. My
mom went to Catholic school her whole life. My dad went to public school his whole life. I got to go to Catholic school for my life until I got to college, and it's a great. You can get a great education anywhere here in San Diego. There's a lot of great public schools. As you mentioned, Helix is a great public school. The Poway Unified School District is absolutely outstanding. You can get it at a Catholic school. So you make the most of your opportunities, Craig. And if you're, again, like I said, if you want a tour, your son wants a tour, we could show you the school that was designed by the bishop to look like a village in Tuscany.
It's beautiful.
So
it's so beautiful.
I will show you around Tuscany if you would like.
First time I walked on that campus, walking to Manchester Stadium, did I make a wrong turn? Am I at Pepperdine? What's going on? This beautiful college campus that I'm on is actually for high schoolers.
We got major upgrades that just got put in that are outstanding. We got a nice alumni center that looks like a suite for the football stadium. We got video boards now at all the athletic sites.
And
state-of-the-art STEM building now.
State-of-the-art STEM.
Yeah, they just built it. They have a robotics class where they build robots and actually compete in robotic battle of the bots competitions. The kids love doing. So if your son's into that too, I mean, we got something for everybody at Cathedral.
All right. Okay. All right. And yes, to answer the chat, yes, there are religious studies classes, and yes, they go to mass every week. It's part of the.
I think
it's part of the deal.
Cathedral's once a month.
Once a month?
Yes, I remember because I went at. I'm assuming your son goes once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was at St. Michael's, it was once a week. You go to Cathedral, it's once a month. You got to dress up and do mass, and it's pretty cool. They do it in the gym and all that fun stuff. But you have to take religion classes, but then they have other classes you could be a part of that count as religion that are kind of like group stuff and leading retreats and all that fun stuff. So there's a lot of different opportunities over there. I love it.
That's not what's good for my bank account. I mean, it could be what's good for James's education down the road. But when
James's
we come
future.
back,
that's what's good for James's future.
When we come back, it's what's good from the weekend, where Braden and I will pick out something maybe off the beaten cuff for me, completely off the world of sports entirely. But we're going to talk about it. What's good next? It's your new midday hang in Sandy and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Tune in to kick off with Boomer Esiason and Mike Valenti. Every week, Boomer and Valenti preview the entire slate of NFL games, analysis from Boomer and picks from Mike. The biggest stories in the league packed into an hour. Friday nights at 7 here on 97.3 The Fan and always live on the free Odyssey app. Presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos, brought to you by those who drink it. And by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. Danny and Elsten, 1041 with you. A rainy, nasty Monday morning here in San Diego. Be careful if you are out there. Be slow if you are on the roadways. Careful is better on a day like this. That would be a good way to get from here to there on this Monday morning. And Braden, it's time for What's Good, our every Monday look at good things from the weekend that was.
What's good? I have a open for that will be done today. Well, so next Monday we'll have the full open with the big voice guy. And we'll have music and stuff, and we'll be ready to go.
San Diego.
That's right.
What's good on a Monday with
Right.
Andy and Elsten?
I can give you the script if you want to just announce it for us. Big voice guy. I love getting the liners back because I'm blanking on his name right now. I can check in my email. Not only does it's so funny. He does the script the way you would think he would do it the first time. And then the second time he kind of puts a little flair on it, like a different way to say it. And then the third time he adds his own stuff. And I mean, some of them were just hilarious that I got back from him on some of the things that we do. I think I think one of the Netflix and chill ones were just hysterical. And there was one other one that they had that I was dying laughing when he did it. And then he just records the whole time. So he messes up all the time, like randomly. And then you just hear like these random like cuss words in the background from the big voice guy. And then he's like, you know what? I'm done. Here you go. That's as good as it's going to get. Thanks again. It's pretty funny. It's pretty entertaining to do. What's good? Well, there's a lot of things that are good. It was good to get my show underway.
Absolutely.
And going over the weekend. Had a little bit of issue to begin. The BetQL show went a little bit too long, which pushed a lot of the automation and things in the background that need to flip over for this board to take over the airwaves. So the first segment didn't exist. We were live on YouTube with just my face talking, but there was no audio anywhere. And when you're trying to run a show by yourself, I needed like 4 other arms to kind of do everything. I'm getting all these text messages and passing the try. We can't hear you. I'm like, I can't fix that right now. So once that happened, we got it up and running. It was great. And it was good to get the show going. I was very productive over the weekend as well, trying to get all the social media aspects of that dialed in, trying to figure out how to do YouTube shorts and all that sort of fun stuff so we could better enhance our show and my Saturday show. And then what else happened over the weekend? It was good. It was good time, a good relaxing weekend with the rain and everything. Got to work the USD game and watch some college basketball, watch the NFL. I think I had something else, but I'm blanking on it. I'll throw it out there if I remember.
I got a few different things. I'm going to start in a slightly different area. How about the name Nick Dunlap? Heard of Nick Dunlap?
It's a great performance over the weekend.
Nick Dunlap is 20 years old. He is a college golfer at the University of Alabama, and he is now a PGA Tour champion. Gets the win in the weekend tournament at the Amex and pars out to finish. First amateur in 33 years to win a PGA Tour event. The last was Phil Mickelson in 1991. He's the youngest amateur to win a PGA Tour event since 1910 at the age of 20 years old. And fascinating, because he's an amateur, didn't make any money for what he did this weekend. No money. First place money went to the runner-up in the tournament, Christian Bezuidenhout.
Gesundheit.
Bezuidenhout.
God bless you.
However, he gets the 2-year PGA Tour exemption. He gets the invitation to the Masters. All the other rewards that come with being a PGA Tour champion all go to Nick Dunlap. And now the question is, does he just turn pro? Or does he go back to be a member of the Alabama golf team? And then imagine being that kid at Ole Miss who's the freshman number 4 golfer and striding up and like, oh, yeah, well, you get to play a PGA Tour champion today.
If he decides to go pro, does he get the 1.5 million or no? He doesn't get it. It's already gone. So
gone.
What's the point?
Gone goodbye.
I might as well go back to college.
Gone goodbye.
To me, that's the decision you make before you. Could he make the decision right before that last putt? I'm a pro now. Give me the 1.5.
I just had an epiphany from hole
right.
71 to 72. College ain't for me, guys. I'm going pro.
I think the wise decision is to finish out the college and then go pro. Is probably what he should do. And you can't let just one great weekend, be your future if it all of a sudden doesn't work out and then you're not on the PGA Tour. So, great performance. It sucks that he can't get the money. It's obviously a different situation than name, image, and likeness, just because, you can't pay college athletes for playing, even though that seems to be what a lot of schools are using NIL for. But you know what? Good for him. He wins a PGA Tour event, regardless of what maybe the financial reward is. He's going to be talked about for a long time. It's a pretty impressive feat.
Tell you what else is good. Caitlin Clark is good.
Yes, she is.
For about the first time that I can remember in my life, maybe the second or third, right? Because there was UConn's big winning streak. There's been a couple of really ballyhooed national championship games, but for the first time I can remember in my life, and it's on me for that, but I sought out a regular season conference Big Ten women's basketball game on Saturday morning. I saw that was on Peacock. Maybe it was Sunday morning that it was. I think it was yesterday that it was on Peacock before the football games came on. And I'm like, I want to watch Caitlin Clark play. And Iowa, number 2 ranked, was at Ohio State, one of the other ranked teams in conference. They had a complete sellout. I saw some stats, Braden, that every Big Ten school averages 5,000 to 6,000 more tickets sold per game when Iowa comes to town. So it's kind of like the 90s Bulls, what Caitlin Clark has done for the Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball program. Who talked about the Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball program on San Diego Sports Talk Radio at any time prior to Caitlin Clark, who shoots like Steph Curry, who's just fearless. And I had seen all the highlights, but I had never sat down just to watch a game, like watch a full game and see how she plays and see how she works off screens and when she decides to attack the basket or when she'll literally shoot from the logo. And until she tired out in overtime, she could hit it from the logo in the 40th minute of the game. It was incredible. And Ohio State actually won. They played incredibly well. As Adam noted in the chat, over 18,000 in the arena in Ohio State for, again, a women's college basketball game. She went for 45 points, I believe, and in every way lived up to what I was looking forward to watching and also elevated the opponent. It was a great college basketball game. Unfortunate at the end. I'm sure that's probably the only part of this that anyone actually really heard about over the weekend, was that when Ohio State won, they stormed the court. And as they stormed the court, Caitlin Clark was looking the other way, jogging off the court, and she got run into and got knocked over and kind of knocked the wind out of her. She was down for a couple of minutes, and then she got up and went on. And of course, Ohio State apologized, and everyone apologized. So that we can focus on that moment. That was an unfortunate moment from an enthusiastic fan. They weren't actually trying to hurt Caitlin Clark, but she's incredible. She's not just good. She's incredible and has so much showmanship and so much style to her game. She is electric to watch. And I think watching women's sports can be extremely rewarding. And this is another example of it. Watching Caitlin Clark is extremely rewarding if you're a basketball fan at all, never mind men's or women's.
Yeah, it's entertainment. I mean, that's the end of the day. Like when you perform an entertaining level, if you have an entertaining product, people are going to watch. And Caitlin Clark is an entertaining product with everything that she does. And she has brought a nice group of people and an audience to women's college basketball, which is actually growing a lot in popularity. I mean, I haven't been that interested in it until I started calling some of the USD games and watching TCU for this season. They were always just not very good in women's college basketball. They started getting really good, and they got players that could hit the three. And obviously before they ran out of players to play, they were doing really well and kind of growing a fan base out there. And just to kind of relate it back to local, we've had a lot of great girls basketball players go through San Diego, especially high schools, to be, to go on to have great careers. I mean, Kelsey Plum is one of the best players in the WNBA. She was one of the best players in college as well. I played high school football with her brother. The Plum family that is, ever so athletic, but she comes out of La Jolla Country Day. Same with, Candace Wiggins that came out of La Jolla
Correct.
Country Day. I mean, those are two products that really come to mind. We see a couple of current college players. I mentioned the player over at UCSD that's a freshman. She's been outstanding for the Tritons, also a product of La Jolla Country Day. And then, just one that comes to mind. I mean, it was cool to see as I was calling some of the girls basketball games for Cathedral last couple of years. They had a player by the name of Ice Brady. She got she got recruited by UConn and is playing at UConn right now. I mean, the fact that San Diego has, some products that are playing at some of the big schools too is phenomenal. We got some good high school girls basketball here in town to go with. And we've talked about the soccer so many times, but a lot of great female athletes throughout San Diego that have gone on to great things and currently doing great things at the college level.
Last thing for what's good for me from the weekend on a more serious but hopefully maybe uplifting note. I told you earlier, Braden, Saturday morning was at a funeral. My son James is an altar server as well as being a Boy Scout, and one of the leaders in Scout Troop 51, Joe Giaminaro, his father Joseph, passed away a week ago. I'm friends actually with Joe's brother, Dominic, who works as a sales guy across the street in radio. And I've done plenty of deals with Sockers in the past. And so James was asked to serve at the Mass for the passing of Joseph Giaminaro. And my wife, Mitzi, and I went, of course, in support of both the Giaminaros and of James. And we got to hear about a great man. And when in particular, I listened to Joe and Dominic's heartfelt words about their father, the thing that they wanted to emphasize as grown adults with children of their own is how selfless their father was, how their father would take Dom on a kind of surprise car trip and on the weekend and would be to go and help serve meals to the less fortunate, how he was always looking out for someone else, how he was a little league coach for kids that weren't his own for 10 years in North Park. A selfless man, a man who put serving others over serving his own self-interest. And in an equally coarsened society these days, a society that seems to be increasingly isolated and lonely and selfish, especially when you're in the worlds of social media, when you're online and activated. Hearing about someone who is selfless is a reminder to be selfless yourself. Later that afternoon, and I mentioned it earlier, Braden, I was witness to a horrific accident on the 8. And if you told me that there was a fatality or two out of it, I would absolutely believe that that was the case. And I was driving past it just as the ambulance was arriving. And what truly struck me, obviously the horrific nature of the accident, 6 to 8 cars involved, cars overturned, cars run up the embankment on the 8, horrifying. But beyond the accident, Braden, a line of 12 different cars of people who witnessed this in real time and understood that they had to stop. They had to stop because human lives were at risk. And as was famously said by Mr. Rogers, in times of tragedy, look for the helpers. And I saw those helpers out on the side of the road that were helping to usher the ambulance to the right place to get somebody help that they desperately needed to save their life. I heard about a selfless man on Saturday morning. I saw a selfless act by at least a dozen San Diegans during a rainstorm on the side of the road on Saturday. And it's just a great reminder to all of us. Put someone else in front of yourself today. Try and do something for someone else and not yourself today. and see where it gets you. Might get you to a very happy place. That's hour number 1 of Annie and Elsten. Annie not here today. Craig and Braden holding down the fort with you, and we're right back with hour number 2 next on San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Now, here are your hosts, Annie and Elsten, on San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Yes, indeed. Here we are, 11 a.m. on San Diego's number 1 sports station. It's your new midday hang. It's Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan. My name's Craig Elsten. Annie Halburn is out today. She will be back tomorrow. It's something that was part of the beginning of her time here at Odyssey, working for San Diego Sports Association, getting ready for Salute to Champions. She's a huge part of the planning. They've got one of their biggest meetings today. They had a big one on Friday as well, and we're going to be happy to welcome her back on Tuesday and enjoy 4 hours together. But we're holding down the fort for you here today. We are live on 97.3 The Fan. We are live on the Odyssey app, streaming worldwide, where you can go back, check out our previous segment, hit rewind. Everything's chaptered out for you, made to be extremely friendly to the end user. And we are streaming live on YouTube. Big shout out to everybody in the chat, enjoying all the interaction as always. We're streaming across almost all of the platforms. There's an outlet of it on Facebook. There's an outlet of it on Twitter, but the YouTube chat is where it all originates. So check out the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. That's where you'll see 13 hours of live and local sports talk today. We had Ben and Woods from 6 to 10. We are here from 10 to 2. Gwen and Chris take over from 2 to 6. And at 6 p.m., Matt Scraby has the Scraby Show from 6 to 7. To wrap things up. All the shows archived, all the past shows and past interviews available as well. So check it out, the Odyssey app, as well as our YouTube channel. It's rolling. Okay. Hour number one took a talk about San Diego State, talked about what's good in the weekend, very brief discussion of the Farmers. We might talk a little more golf a little bit later in the program. Nothing doing with the San Diego Padres. Once again, another weekend of no moves. We're left to just cling to any piece of writing we get from any one of our various reporters, whether it's AC or AJ Cassavell or Dennis Lynn. AJ Cassavell just put out his latest Padres beat talking about third base. He's been going position by position. And third base is kind of an interesting spot to talk about. In one sense, it's the most boring spot you could talk about, Braden. There's a guy there for the next 10 years with a full no-trade clause. So third base, that's Machado. We know what third base is, but there is that question mark. Will it be Manny Machado on opening day at third base? Will it be Manny Machado at DH opening day? Will he be ready opening day? Early reports are yes, but it's still a lingering question for this season.
I think he'll be the designated hitter on opening day. I think Ha-Seong Kim will probably be playing third base, which means either Jackson Merrill or Jay Cronenworth will be playing second base. Just based on what the Padres have done the last couple of seasons, especially with their young guys, I could totally see them using this as a reason to have Jackson Merrill on their opening day roster, where he's playing second base, Cronenworth's playing first, Kim's at third, Manny's your DH for at least the first couple of, I think it's going to be for the first couple of weeks, if not the first, maybe month. And then, maybe they got some young guys that could be in the outfield, or they go pick up some, old savvy vet to roam out there. I don't know what they're going to do, but as of right now, the way things are trending, I think that's what your roster is going to look like. And if you do it like that, you really only need a left fielder, because I'm assuming Azúcar is going to be in center and Fernando's in right. And then you're pretty much ready to roll. And then you got a lot of, younger players on the bench, guys like Eggy Rosario and Matthew Batten. And, you got, do they carry three catchers with Brett Sullivan? I would be against that, but, Kyle Higashioka on the bench. And that's going to be your 2024 Padres unless something happens. And right now, it doesn't seem like anything is really happening on the Padres front.
I go back to the Kyle Glazer interview a couple weeks ago on Ben and Woods when he said the single biggest mistake the Padres could make in 2024 would be to rush this slightly undercooked but extremely promising to be delicious meal that is the current crop coming up. You mentioned Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill is 22 years old. Jackson Merrill last year played 68 games at Fort Wayne, that's high A ball, and 46 games at San Antonio, which is double A ball. Now, can you go from double A to the big leagues? I see pitchers do it fairly regularly, go from double A to the big leagues, because when you've got the stuff, You often want to skip AAA.
Especially if you're in the PCL.
Correct.
For AAA.
Where there's a bunch of mile-high ballparks, there's a bunch of desert ballparks. ERAs get blown up, pitch shapes change, pitches don't move.
Confidence goes out the door.
Knuckleballs don't drop, and Matt Waldron thinks he has to throw a slider when he's actually got a perfectly good knuckleball, etc. So for a pitcher, I get it. For a hitter, I don't get it. I don't get it. I think if you rush somebody to the big leagues and expose them to the type of stuff and the type of pitch shapes and the type of command and the type of strategy and artistry that exists on the modern major league mound, you have a great chance to ruin a kid. You have a great chance to bring someone up and, by the way, suffer through their potentially losses that they're incurring while they're hitting under 200 and unable to hit the ball out of the infield and unable to recognize a ball from a strike. And I think Jackson Merrill profiles to be an excellent major league hitter. I mean, many people think he'll be a 285, 295 plus major league hitter in his career. If you start him now, you have a chance to mess that up, to retard his progress. And the same goes for Jacob Marcy. The same goes for Mortarella. The same goes, of course, for Ethan Salas, who's 17 years old, for gosh sakes. I don't think anyone actually believes Ethan Salas will be anywhere near the big leagues this year or maybe even next year as well. But rushing prospects is something the Padres have done many times in the past. And I think it would be a great idea not to do that. I would personally, I think I've made this clear. People love to call me an idiot for comments like this, but I'm trying to see the picture for what it is. I would rather have a set of placeholders, meaning not great Major League Baseball outfielders. Jurickson Profar is a perfect example of that. Guys that if they're not good in a half year, you can move off them, having given all of these kids a half year in the minor leagues to further season, and then maybe they come up with the polish they need to step into the big leagues and succeed. That, to me, Braden, is easier than the possible other way around, which is put the young kids in right away, see them struggle, and then when it's time to move off of that, okay, well, now where do you go? Now do you go sign a placeholder in the middle of the summer? I like it better the other way around.
I would rather get, you can go get, there's a lot of available good, solid, everyday major league players, right? And you mentioned not great, but good, solid major league players that are still available on the open market. And to me, if you could get those guys, and maybe this is what the Padres are waiting for, but I agree with you for 2024. I think you need some placeholders so those top talented players for the Padres coming up the ranks are ready to go in 2025, and they're ready when they're ready. But if you go out and you get, let's say you get a left fielder, and maybe you get a couple of corner outfielders, and you experiment with Fernando in center field during spring training, see how it goes. And you go get, maybe a first baseman, and again, good, solid, everyday major league players, and you give them a 1-year deal with a club option for next year. I think that's the best way to establish success. Now, in a perfect world, you could get everybody on a 1 year plus a club option deal. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case, but it gives you some flexibility, right? Where if you bring in a guy, let's say you bring in, I'm going to use Jock Peterson as an example. Let's say you bring in Jock Peterson and you give him a 1-year deal with incentives and you give him a club option for the next year, and he's your placeholder in left field or wherever it may be, or the DH, whatever spot. And he does very, very well. Like, he's just through the roof, kicks ass. Then you could bring him back another year if you really wanted to, and, ease the minor league guys in. Or if he stinks, he's done at the end of the year. You don't have to worry about it. You didn't break the bank. And I think you can make that case for a lot of the players that are still available. I mean, these guys that are still left are not, aside from like Bellinger and Snell and Montgomery and Chapman, these are guys that are just looking for a place to play and would probably take a 1-year deal with incentives. They would probably take a 1-year deal with a club option for next year, or maybe a 2-year club option after the fact. And that, to me, is the way that the Padres have to go. That could be what they're waiting for, maybe to get the price to those points. But the best recipe for success for 2024, assuming you keep Hassan Kim, by the way, that's a different topic that we talked about last week, is got to be some placeholders on team-friendly contracts.
We were promised a good season in 2024. And for the decade of the 2020s, Padres season ticket holders are being asked to pay the highest price they've ever paid to continue to support the franchise. And speaking as a season ticket holder who's also a member of the media now on this show, I fully support these efforts for the Padres to be great in 2024. I also understand the need to cycle to break the cycle. We've talked about this so many times, right, Braden? Breaking the cycle. What does that mean? It means stop trading all your best prospects for 3 years of a controllable player from some other major league roster, creating clubhouse microwave chemistry, throwing all the other team's best players into a pot and going, okay, make yourself a team out of this.
Somebody lead. Thank you.
Yeah. You're all $30 million players. Which one of you would prefer to be captains? Just here to figure that out. So with that said, I'd like to see the Padres make one trade. I'd like to see the Padres make one strategic move to bring in one type of upgrade that is a controllable player from another team, and then leave everyone else to properly mature in the minor leagues and get here on time. And then the cycle's broken in 2025. Going into 2025, at that point, you've got young players coming up, major league ready to supplement the player decisions you make at the major league level. This is what the Dodgers have. This is what they have done year after year, is they're patient with their kids unless they make a big trade. And when they come up, they're ready to contribute to the big league team. There's an orthodoxy to what they do from low A all the way to the major leagues that makes it even easier for that to happen. So it's a tough pill to swallow on January 22nd when nothing has happened yet. And it's kind of easy to go, well, Marcy, Paulie, Merrill, all these kids, let's see what they can do. I'm telling you. And Rich McGuire in the chat had a great example. This is a specific anecdotal cautionary tale, but Braden, I think it's one that's quite relevant. The Padres brought up Anthony Rizzo just a little bit too early. I think that was 2012. We can look up the exact date, but I believe it was 2012 that the Padres brought up Anthony Rizzo. Undercooked from the minor leagues because they wanted to show at that time some positive return to the Adrian Gonzalez trade, which had been pilloried in town. They wanted to see some of that return. They wanted to see Anthony Rizzo in the major leagues. 2011. Thank you, Adam Paul. 2011, they bring up Anthony Rizzo. He was terrible. I was actually there when he hit his first big league homer. I was over the porch in right field, but he was completely overmatched. And you know what happens sometimes when you bring up a kid to the big leagues and he gets completely overmatched? The organization changes their thought on the player. Not just the rest of baseball. The organization sours on a player. And the Padres allowed themselves to get to the point where Josh Burns could convince himself that the rest of Anthony Rizzo's career was of equal or lesser value to Andrew Cashner's career. And he traded Anthony Rizzo for Andrew Cashner. And that's one of the worst trades the Padres have ever made. Now, it's not the worst trade the Padres have ever made because they've made some bad ones, but it's probably top 15 for the worst trades the Padres have ever made. And they gave up all of a great player's career that still continues to this day to get a guy who lit up the radar guns erratically and occasionally buying high off of some great appearances that year. Kind of mistake you make sometimes when you rush a player.
100%. That's been the common occurrence with the Padres in general. I do want to make a couple of points on just what you were kind of talking about, and just to fill in our audience that might be a little confused on this. We are not advocating that the Padres keep everybody in their farm system. We are advocating that they keep the right players in their farm system, which, as talk show hosts, we obviously don't know who those players are because that is not our job, right?
It's not. Keep the good ones, trade the bad ones?
Yes, but
it's a great call.
You have to keep your top 3. And what the Padres have not been doing is keeping any of them. And so they got to keep a couple of them. As much as like we always throw out the Dodgers, right, for being able to produce players. It's not like they don't make trades. I mean, they make trades all the time, but they're trading away guys that they know are not going to be big impactful bats for themselves. And they make bad trades too. I mean, they did not obviously think Yordan Alvarez was going to be the player that he turned out to be. That's a big whiff on the Dodgers, and it happens. It's so hard. It is so difficult to be able to hang on to some of these players. So as much as we're on the Padres right now about being able to keep guys, we talked about it last week, Craig. When push comes to shove, when it comes to trades, it is still better to trade prospects for top all-star players than it is just to keep them.
Almost every time.
So as much as we have criticized the Padres, I mean, at the end of the day, they made that decision. So for the grand scheme of things, that's not that bad of a organizational philosophy. But it would be nice to save money by having young guys be able to come up, and you don't need 5 of these guys to come up. You don't need all 10 of the top 10 to come up. You really only need a couple of those guys to come up and hit. And when you trade all of them away, or the majority of them away, you're left with just kind of putting all your eggs in the Luis Campusano basket, which is not really fair to him as much as it's not really fair to the Padres. And I think he's done a great job, and I think it's going to work out for them, but it really paints them into a corner, especially with finances, when you don't have, 2 or 3 guys coming up. And that's all you really need. You need to be able to address those 2 to 3 players that we mentioned 2 weeks ago, what minor league baseball is built on. It's built on creating games for about 2 to 3 guys to develop and keeping those guys through. It's easy when you got a phenom like Fernando to keep that player. It's easy when you have an Ethan Salas. But where the Padres really need to get better at is finding those players and holding on to the players that are, maybe the Jackson Merrills of the world, or some of these guys like Robbie Snelling and Dylan Lesko, some guys that, obviously high draft picks, not necessarily the superstar quality that everybody knows is going to be a big hit, but to be able to develop those guys and add them to their everyday major league roster. And that's something that they've lacked.
Putting it another way, and just reemphasizing your point, Braden, right now in 2024's offseason, the Padres, in order to fill their outfield, are likely going to have to pay $6 million per WAR, $6 to $8 million per WAR generated, just to put players out there. Once you get the young pipeline going, that's what you want. You want to be able to reach down into your system to get those 1 and 2 WAR players, those players who are strong complementary role players on your team, and hope that, of course, a couple develop into becoming controllable stars for your team. That's the absolute ideal. But the biggest thing is not to always have to pay market price to fill out the rest of your roster. Because when you do that, you wind up, first of all, missing sometimes and getting the Matt Carpenters and Nelson Cruzes of the world. And the other thing you do is you run out of money to buy anything else or to upgrade in some substantive way somewhere else. So it is time to break the cycle here in San Diego. The question is, how do you do it without breaking the window and keeping 2024 as a competitive team? All right, let's take a quick timeout. 11:20. Nice long baseball segment there to get us cooking. Braden's football segment in review is still to come this hour. Working our way towards 12 o'clock and our daily feature now on Annie and Elsten, the 12 o'clock Sports Fix, your chance to get caught up on everything happening in the world of sports, things that have happened today, all the things that happened through the weekend, with an emphasis on our local team, some of the news that you won't find if you just crack open the newspaper or look on a national website. We'll give that all to you coming up at the top of the hour. Once again, Annie off today. She is at work for the San Diego Sports Association Association getting ready for Salute to Champions, and she will be back tomorrow. My name's Craig Elsten with Braden Soprano. That's Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Remember the Snellinger principle from last week, Braden?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you do. We're going to talk about it again. 11:26 on Annie and Elsten. Craig Elsten with Braden Soprano today. Annie is off today. She is at her other gig today. She will be back tomorrow. And I just saw we get one signing per 4 days right now in Major League Baseball. But a deal that was actually discussed and then made official, according to ESPN's Jeff Passan yesterday, was a 3-year reliever contract for Robert Stevenson with the Anaheim Angels. I'll still call them the Anaheim Angels. I don't care. 3 years, $33 million for Robert Stevenson. Robert Stevenson on your radar at all, Braden?
No.
That's in part because of the Snellinger principle. What is the Snellinger principle? You may be asking, dear listener. If you missed Friday's show, you probably didn't hear me talk about this. Joe Sheehan, national baseball writer, Joe Sheehan newsletter, tremendous thought creator, content creator for baseball, discussed the Snellinger principle. It explains what is paralyzing the top of the market. And the principle is as follows. If a contract that you would give to a free agent would have looked ludicrous a year ago, it's probably ludicrous today. A year ago, Cody Bellinger was designated for assignment. He was literally cut by the LA Dodgers. They didn't want to give him a contract, and the Cubs gave him a make-good 1-year deal. And then he had a really good year. But a year ago, would you give Bellinger $200 million? Of course not. It would be ludicrous. He was just cut by one of the smartest analytical teams in the world. Blake Snell, a year ago, was a good 3-starter that struggled in the playoffs. Would you give him a $240 million contract a year ago? Of course not. Wouldn't make any sense. That's why teams don't want to do it this year. Robert Stevenson, a year ago, pitched for the Pittsburgh Pirates for 13 innings. He was okay. Before that, he was with the Rockies. Had a 6 ERA in 45 games, 44 innings, 34 runs allowed. At the end of 2022, giving Robert Stevenson anything when he finished combined 2-2 with a 5.43 ERA would have been ludicrous. 10 home runs allowed in 58 innings. But last year, after getting hosed for 18 games in Pittsburgh, he was traded to Tampa Bay. The Rays put him in the pitch lab, sprinkled the Rays elfin magic on him, and he pitched 38 dominant innings of baseball where he gave up 18 hits, 8 walks, and struck out 60. Struck out 60 in 38 and a third innings. Incredibly brilliant for an incredibly short period of time for a specific team that utilizes pitchers in a way no other team does. And now the Angels are betting $33 million that the Robert Stevenson of 38 innings in Tampa is the real Robert Stevenson, not any of his other 4 stops in Major League Baseball where he was no more than a barely rosterable average pitcher. The Snellinger principle, Braden. In effect, Robert Stevenson's contract is much more likely to be something the Angels regret in a couple of months than it is something they celebrate.
Yeah, these contracts are getting to a point where they're just completely out of hand and they don't make any sense from what you're getting. I mean, it's almost the contracts are going away with the real estate market. I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago with what people are willing to pay for in terms of a house nowadays. I mean, what people are willing to pay for an arm is just absolutely ridiculous, as well as some of the players that are going off the board. I mean, we saw that at the beginning part of the offseason. Kenta Maeda signing this gigantic number deal, a 2-year, $28 million deal or $24 million deal. He's getting $12 million per. Sean Manaea is getting $14 million per. I mean, we saw Sean Manaea here. I mean, it wasn't good enough to cut it for a playoff starting pitcher. And somebody's getting $14 million. I mean, 14 million used to get you like a 2 or a 3, even sometimes a 1, depending on where you're at. Now it's like you're getting a swing man for $14 million. I can't believe the contracts these general managers are hashing out, and it's swaying the market to a point where a lot of teams are not seeing the return on their investment either in ticket sales or in W's, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and leave it to the Angels to do something wrong and to make a mistake. But I really do think the thing that is freezing the market is the Snellinger principle. It's the fact that there are many smart GMs, smart front offices that are looking at the players on the market and going, nope. Robert Stevenson, nope. That was 38 innings. We're not going to bet 3 years on 38 innings. Bellinger, 1 year. Snell, an incredible second half. If Blake Snell was 1-6 with a 4.7 ERA for his new team, 15 starts into that season, would you be at all surprised, Braden?
Not really. I mean, I can't believe, some of how desperate some of these teams are acting with some of their contracts. I mean, just so desperate on getting like they all just want to get a property, and they're just seeing guys go off the board and they go, well, I gotta get something. I gotta get something. And if I'm gonna have to overpay, I have to be the highest bidder with my cash offer here. So be it, just to get into the market. They want to get into the real estate market. They want to get into the pitching market. We have to fill this hole. We don't have anything coming up. They have to have, these placeholders, and teams are overpaying for it because it is, it's definitely a seller's market right now for free agency. And those sellers are the players in Major League Baseball, and they're getting some serious cash flow right now.
And Michael in the chat makes a great point to wrap up the segment, that it's not just the Snellinger principle. That's a huge part of it. And the other part is that those players to whom the principle is being applied are generally represented by Scott Boras, who's telling all of his clients the same thing: hang tight, hold on. I get my deals done at the end of the offseason, sometimes in spring training, but I always get my money, and you will get your money. Just stay patient and hold firm. He's probably right, but this is what's made for 3 weeks of us coming up with fake trades and fake signings.
That's why monopolies are
everything.
supposed to be illegal in the United States. And right now, Scott Boras almost has a monopoly with all the players that he has under contract.
Very smart man and a very rich man. When we come back, it's Braden's Fall segment in review. If you've been looking for some NFL talk, we're going to give it all to you in a concentrated form with music underneath. Right when we come back, it's your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, Annie and Elsten on The Fan. Did you know you can listen to 97.3 The Fan with your smart speaker? Just ask your device to play 97.3 The Fan and give it a shot, regardless of what that smart speaker is. If I said those things into the radio, I could trigger those speakers. But just ask your device, play 97.3 The Fan, and then, you're cool. You're set. It's all good. Hopefully you're in the house, staying dry. Hopefully your house is not leaking. I'm receiving text messages from my wife, Braden, during the break saying, make sure to check every room for leaks. We haven't really had issues with leaks at the Elsten abode in La Mesa, but this is a unique day. According to the National Weather Service, San Diego in the 10 a.m. hour received 0.77 inches of rain. That's a lot.
It's a lot of rain. Hopefully we can harness it, but I don't think we can. We don't have the capabilities of doing that. That's another topic for another day on a different station, but that is a lot of rain. I do like the rain. It's nice. Every once in a while. I do miss the sunshine, but we need rain all the time in a desert. We do live in a desert, people. This is a desert.
I usually use at night a kind of a white noise thing. I actually use the Alexa app, but, to play something in the background.
Beach, waves crashing on a beach or the rainforest sounds.
Helps me sleep.
Sleep sounds.
Yes,
that the Alexa
precisely.
does.
Sleep sounds, precisely.
I know what you're talking about.
I use sleep sounds, and my go-to is Rain on a Tent. And I had that on last night, and then woke up, turned it off, and heard the exact same thing in real life. I was like, oh, I didn't need the app. I should have just listened to Mother Nature. I would have had sleep sounds all night long.
It's very rare that you don't have to use the app here in San Diego. I do remember, it's so weird when you live in different places in the country. I mean, when I was living in Texas, because, I'd sleep through earthquakes all the time. I could sleep through the rain and not hear any of it. Thunderstorm in Texas that would come in the middle of the night would wake me up every single time. And that was before the sirens started going off because of high winds and potential tornado warnings. But I remember a couple of times where thunder would wake me up with Texas, and most of the time it was a nice soothing rain outside that was like the sleep sounds, but that thunder, man, would hit a lot, and it would wake me up in the middle of the night in Texas, and then followed by a TCU alert to shelter in place because a tornado was about to roll through. Springtime in Fort Worth was definitely a wild time where there was a couple of times where a twister would happen in the middle of the night, and everybody would be up in the middle of the night after the TCU alert. And then, with the TCU alert, your family gets called. So my parents are getting called at 2 a.m. on the West Coast from TCU, right? So they're immediately thinking, what the hell's going on? But it would just be the automated, it's shelter in place kind of thing. And then we'd be up all night, and then the twister would finally go away at 6 or 7 a.m. And then they'd be like, all right, class is still on. We'll see you at 8. Oh, thanks. Have you kept us up all night sitting in a bathtub?
So if you are anywhere in San Diego right now, please be very careful. I'm just seeing, for example, my buddy Brandon on Twitter just showing the I-5 South horribly flooded, up to the tire wells of cars flooded on the freeway past East Village. Wherever you're going, please be safe. Nobody try and drive over 50 miles an hour in this nonsense. If you see standing water, slow down. Be careful because it's truly, truly not worth it. All right. Now is the time when we get to go back to the divisional round, play the music. It's time for Braden's football segment. It's time to talk about the hand egg. Here we go with some really good games last weekend, Braden.
Let's get into Saturday's game. The first one, which was the only one that wasn't really a close one, and that was Baltimore and Houston. Lamar Jackson, we talked about it on Friday, had not done well in the postseason, especially in the division round. He was 0-2 at 5 picks, only 1 touchdown. Man, did he put the Ravens on his back.
Lamar with the snap. Quarterback draw off the middle. He's to the 10. 5, touchdown Ravens! Lamar Jackson and the Ravens regain the lead.
And the hay is in the barn, as courtesy of the Baltimore Ravens radio network. Lamar Jackson had a great game. I mean, he just had an unbelievable game, used his legs, used his arm, and it was almost like he, going into that game, knew about all of the criticism he was getting, about all the picks, about all of the poor playoff performances. And in difficult situations, instead of forcing a throw, he took a sack. Instead of forcing a throw, maybe threw it out of bounds, used his legs. He controlled the game. Houston, valiant effort. They got a lot of great players coming back, and they got a lot of cap space during the offseason. We'll see how it D'Amico Ryans and company puts together. But overall, Ravens have a badass defense. They got a quarterback that's not turning the ball over. They got good weapons. They're going to be a tough out in the rest of the playoffs, especially in the AFC Championship game for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm sure we'll talk about it more as the week goes on, but I believe the Chiefs will be America's darling this week because of the classical recency bias and Pat Mahomes and all of the success the Chiefs have had. And I think Baltimore is a really solid bet this week.
Absolutely, because Baltimore's defense is a lot better than anything Kansas City has seen. Buffalo does not have a good defense, and they really kept the Chiefs at bay for the majority of that game. And the Chiefs are not as good as they've been in years past. But I will say this, it seems like the Kansas City Chiefs are the new New England Patriots with the way that they're treated by the National Football League. More to come on that later on. Niners had to sweat it out with the Green Bay Packers. Christian McCaffrey was not going to be denied a chance at the NFC Championship game.
I formation, toss to McCaffrey, big hole, and he runs out across the 30, breaks a tackle, he's gone! Touchdown! CMC!
Christian McCaffrey, the big X factor in this game, because Deebo Samuel went down within the first couple of minutes of this game, and if he's unable to play on Sunday, that might be a big problem for the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody on social media was debating whether or not Jordan Love or Brock Purdy had a better game. I'm going to be honest with you. Neither of them played very well. And if you want to look at the stat sheet, Jordan Love threw 2 picks. Yeah, he did. He still, in my opinion, played better than Brock Purdy. Even though Brock Purdy didn't have the picks, there was at least 2, maybe even 3 times where Purdy made a bad decision and actually threw the ball right at a Green Bay Packer who just flat out dropped an interception. This is going to be the biggest Achilles heel for the San Francisco 49ers. Can they win with Brock Purdy? Can he not make mistakes? He got bailed out of a lot of tough situations. Final drive, I know, he led them down the field to win, but what were all the plays? Christian McCaffrey checkdowns, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is the MVP of this Niners team, especially if Deebo Samuel is unable to play. We'll see what they do next week. Green Bay, got to give them credit. I didn't think they were going to be in this game at all. They were trading blows with the San Francisco 49ers. A great season for the Packers. I'm not a huge Matt LaFleur fan. I have to say he's impressed me with his playoff run because they created a lot of great scheme openings for their offense down the stretch to make the playoffs and in the playoffs. Did a really outstanding job for what the personnel they had in comparison to obviously the most loaded roster in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I think a lot of talk is going to be about Brock Purdy all week long, and it makes that a very interesting line. We'll talk more about the lines in the 12 o'clock Sports Fix, but as of right now, it's going to be a lot of people just counting on Purdy to do better this week and just say, well, they'll do better. It's at home. Detroit's out of the dome. Niners win. Whew. I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting side story.
He's got to make sure he throws it to the guys in the red instead of the guys in silver, and he'll be in a lot better shape. Speaking of the boys in silver, another great win for the Detroit Lions.
Deep back Gibbs, Goff turns, Gibbs to Gibbs over the left side. There he goes inside the 30, inside the 25. Gibbs, speed, 10, 5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions. Turning on the Jets. Jahmyr Gibbs running away from the defenders, and the Lions are back on top.
Lions defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23. Tampa Bay, they were okay. They were an okay football team. I know they beat the Eagles the week before. Not a great football team. Detroit outlasted them. Baker Mayfield did not have a good game. Jared Goff didn't have that great of a game either. Play calling got very interesting down the stretch. I mean, the Detroit Lions were gashing the Bucs on the ground, and then they got tricky inside the red zone a couple of times. Lions end up getting the victory. I don't think the Lions have what it takes to knock off the San Francisco 49ers, but I also didn't think the Packers are going to play it close. So that sets up for an interesting game for the Niners and Lions in the NFC Championship game. I think the Cinderella story comes to an end on Sunday, but what a story it was with the Detroit Lions.
And what a story it still could be if Brock Purdy wants to throw a couple more interceptions on Sunday evening. It may be the least interesting of the games. I mean, Baltimore had the big, close down second half. I just thought the drive that Detroit had when they were up one touchdown, forced an out, and then came back and scored again to go up 2 touchdowns. I thought that was the sign of a team that truly has come together, that didn't panic when the chips were out on the table, which brings us to the last game and the classic game of the weekend.
The final game of the weekend, which came down to the wire. The Buffalo Bills had the ball with under 5 minutes to go. They were trailing the Kansas City Chiefs by 3, and what they needed to do and what they did were two totally different things. Grind the clock, keep getting 3 to 4 yards of pop. Don't let Kansas City get the ball back, not with Patrick Mahomes, not with Andy Reid, not with the way Travis Kelce was playing. If you're going to give them the ball back, you're going to overtime. Well, Buffalo on first down got a 1-yard rush, and then on second down tried to go to the end zone where Allen missed Shakir in the end zone. It was a wide open look and a little bit of miscommunication on the throw. Then on third down, they ran a bootleg play to the right. Yes, the backside guy was a little open. It was going to be a tough throw for Josh Allen. And instead of burning the clock, they got it down to just under the 2-minute warning and decided to attempt a game-tying field goal with 1:45 left in the game on the right hash, 44 yards out in nasty Buffalo wind, to which Bill fans were hoping was not going to be the reincarnation of wide right.
4th down and 9 for Buffalo. Placement down. Bass's kick is up, and the kick is no good! A little prophecy! Tyler Bass has struggled, and he just misses the kick, and the Chiefs will take over at the point of the missed kick.
So the worst thing actually happened. You did give the ball back to the Chiefs, but you didn't do it with a lead. You didn't do it with a tie. You did it with 2 timeouts and praying that you were going to make a stop, which you hadn't been able to do for the significant portion of that game. Kansas City runs out the clock, and they knock down the Bills, who have yet again lost in the divisional round. This was their shot because Josh Allen is due for a contract. And in the National Football League, once you start paying people, other people have to leave, especially other weapons that they might have. It might not be good for the Buffalo Bills moving forward. But the biggest thing that's hurt the Bills in the last 3 to 4 years, their defense has failed in the playoffs. This year it wasn't really good all season, and they don't have any semblance of a run game outside of Josh Allen. Yes, Cook played a lot better. Yes, the run game was better this year, but it's still all Josh Allen with his legs. Something needs to change in Buffalo. There's going to be some major changes due to Josh Allen getting a big contract, and it's the Chiefs with Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and now Jason Kelce that you get to watch out there in the suite, moving on to the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, a lot of pain going the direction of the Buffalo kicker. I think you really laid that out very well, Braden, in that what people need to understand is if he makes the kick, Buffalo loses anyway.
You're asking them to make a stop. You needed to run out the clock and then score a touchdown and win the game, or you're kicking a field goal to go to overtime. And anybody that wants to throw Tyler Bass under the bus, 44 yards out, right hash, and the wind was swirling for a guy that hadn't been very great down the stretch. That was just bad. I just thought the play calling was bad. And when you don't have, a bruising back that can go down there and get 3 to 4 yards, or even, just get not big chunk plays like they went for on second down, you could have grinded the clock, picked up a couple more first downs. Then you're taking 3 pops at the end zone with under a minute to go. And then you could settle for a 20-yard field goal instead of a 44-yard field goal, which wasn't going to be a gimme for the Buffalo Bills. That one's going to sting Bills fans for a long time. It's going to be even worse next year because of the cap hell that they might be in.
I saw somebody, I think it was NBC, put up a stat comparing the last 4 years of the Bills to the 2006-2009 Chargers, and it was
identical.
it was like within 2 wins, right? It was like one was like 48-16, and the other was 47-15, or something like that. It was
same team. Got a good quarterback, right? I mean,
Yep.
Phillip Rivers is a
Yep.
Super Bowl level quarterback when he was here in San Diego. They had the quarterback, they had the weapons. It was just something after another. That being said, I mean, out of all the teams, this Bills team was not the best Bills team that has lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. It hasn't been one of their better teams, but still, it's tough. It's tough to look. It's like the 09 Chargers.
They're also not going to move to Toronto in a few years.
Yeah, they actually got a new stadium. Hey, funny how that works.
It's a very nice thing.
I got a rendering of it. Craig, you want to see it?
Leave it in the back. I'll check it out later. We're going to get you completely caught up to date on everything happening in the world of sports. The 12 o'clock Sports Fix is next. It's Annie and Elsten on 97. We have reached it high noon, but you cannot see the sun if you are here in soggy San Diego. Welcome back to Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie is ensconced, hopefully, in a dry conference room for a giant meeting with San Diego Sports Association as they continue to plan for Salute to Champions, which is happening on February 5th. She will be in and out of the show between here and February 6th. But we are still soldiering on for hour number 3 without her. Annie will be back. Will be a full-strength show tomorrow at 10. Craig Elsten here with Braden Soprenet. It is 12 o'clock. We know you're busy. Perhaps you've been bailing out your car. Maybe you've been busy checking your roof for leaks. Whatever you've been doing, you probably haven't been focused on everything happening in the world of sports. That's why we are here to have your back. We got your 6 on the 12 o'clock Sports Fix, your daily update to get you up to speed on everything that's happening in and around the world of sports. Braden and I present it to you now. I will start with the NFL Conference Championship matchups. We just talked through the games that were in the divisional round. It'll be Kansas City at Baltimore coming up on Sunday. Ravens are 3-point favorites over the Chiefs, and the over-under has been set at 44.5 for that one. Meanwhile, Detroit will be at San Francisco. The Niners, a 6.5-point favorite for that one. The over-under sitting at 51 points. So Ravens -3, Niners -6.5. The two #1 seeds, as expected, favored at home. But when you're a 3-point favorite at home, it basically means it's a toss-up for Kansas City and Baltimore from Vegas's point of view. On Saturday morning, San Diego State was asked to play a CBS national game at Boise State at 10 a.m. Aztecs couldn't hit the side of the barn in the second half. Hit some threes very late to make a respectable final score, but a loss nonetheless, 67-66. Boise State hands the Aztecs their second loss in Mountain West Conference play. SDSU will host Wyoming tomorrow night at Viejas Arena, a 6 o'clock tip-off. And Braden, over to you with the big news in college football.
Yeah, big news in college football, at least that pertains to San Diego. No, it does not involve the San Diego State Aztecs. It does involve one of our players or our products here in San Diego who just played last season for the Carlsbad Lancers, Julian Sayin, who enrolled early at the University of Alabama, entered the transfer portal, and is expected now to go to Ohio State. Sounds like the Ohio State Buckeyes will be picking up Julian Sayin as their next quarterback. I know a lot of local fans wanted Julian to be an Aztec. I thought that was kind of a pipe dream for what the ability he has and what offers that he would be unable to turn down in order to be an Aztec. He has found his landing place. Again, it is expected, not officially reported yet, that he will go to Ohio State. But in the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, you never know. You can always transfer again. So that's Julian Sayin news. Other college basketball news before I send it back over to Craig. We mentioned the Aztecs took the L on Saturday. San Diego Toreros took an L on Saturday as well. The Gonzaga Bulldogs scored 105 points against USD at the Jenny Craig Pavilion and won 105-63. They scored over 100 points against USD in Spokane a couple of weeks ago. So over 200 points scored against the Toreros basketball team against Gonzaga, who is obviously, you know, as everybody knows, the class of the West Coast Conference, one of the top programs in all of college athletics. The UCSD Tritons, after losing to the Anteaters, have bounced back. They beat the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors at Lion Tree Arena on Saturday, 67-61. With the win, UCSD jumps up to 5-1
Let's go
in conference play. And with Irvine losing, there's 3 teams at the top of the leaderboard in the Big West. UC Davis 7-1, UC Irvine 6-1, UC San Diego also 6-1. So the UC's taking care of the Cal States in the Big West Conference as of right now.
Hashtag Tritons Rising. Let's go.
That's right. So we'll see how the rest of the Big West plays out. Should be a fun finish in the Big West and, of course, the Mountain West standings. And before we get to the high school games and high school news, here's Craig back with some more.
We've got a trade for San Diego Wave FC, and it's a beloved player leaving America's finest city, as the Wave this morning announced the trade of Taylor Korniak to Racing Louisville in exchange for $150,000 in allocation money in the NWSL. Korniak, a member of the first two San Diego Wave FC teams, had a prominent role in the first year, playing in the midfield and coming up on set pieces. Year two, some injuries for Taylor. She lost form a little bit, and then she lost favor and wound up being a substitute for a great majority of the second half of 2023. Apparently, Taylor had requested a trade so she could get back to a spot where she could start. So the Wave have made the deal. Taylor Korniak leaving San Diego, heading to Louisville. Arena sports report from the weekend. Gulls split a pair at Abbotsford up in British Columbia. They won 4-3, then they lost 5-2. Then they flew today, and so did Abbotsford, both coming here. Those two teams will be at Pechanga Arena on Tuesday night. A couple weeks ago, Pechanga Arena was underwater from the bottom up. Let's hope it's not underwater from the top down on Tuesday. Seals, huge win for Stephen Wood's beloved San Diego Seals. They went to Albany, undefeated Albany, didn't just win, pasted them 14-7. Seals were so excited they put out a celebratory email like within minutes of the final result, Braden, and didn't even mention the score in it. It was just like, down goes Albany. Albany's done. We kicked their butt. I was like, really? What was the score? Had to look it up. First loss of the year for the Albany Fire Wolves. Why would you name your team the Fire Wolves?
Do they light wolves on fire? That's not very
is that
humane.
a
That's not
wolf
nice.
on fire? That seems deeply inhumane. Is it some sort of demonic
I was gonna say is it
flaming
demonic
wolf?
wolf from hell?
Like Cerebus? Is Cerebus a fire wolf?
Fire wolf. I mean, I've heard of like war hawks, right? Like
Yeah.
making up some type of
Fire wolves.
tough animal name. Fire wolves.
Was this workshopped?
Maybe they wanted red wolves and they couldn't take it because of Arkansas State.
What about fire wolves?
Let's light them on fire. Let's
Lastly,
be the fire
on my
wolves.
side, before I toss it back to Braden, NBA action, some fascinating games at Staples Center last night. In the afternoon, the Clippers were down 11 to Brooklyn with under 5 minutes to play and then scored the final 22 points unanswered and won over the Nets 125-114. In doing so, they covered a 10.5-point spread as well. Lakers romped past Portland 134-110. Best game of the year for D'Angelo Russell, who was then found to be crying on the bench in the fourth quarter. More on that in just a moment, but those are your two big NBA local scores from SoCal. Back to Braden to wrap things up.
High school basketball. Big games of the weekend. I mentioned on Friday, there was a ton of rivalry games, especially involving top teams in San Diego County. We'll start in the South Bay, where the Montgomery Aztecs, who are now 19-2 on the year, downed Mater Dei Catholic 66-51. Carlsbad over El Camino in the North County. They beat the Wildcats of El Camino 58-54. Close one between the number 1 team and the number 14 team in San Diego County. The Discovery Bowl basketball edition, Mission Hills over San Marcos 65-44, as the 8th-ranked Mission Hills Grizzlies have now won 12 straight basketball games to get to 16-6. San Marcos now drops to 16-5 with the loss. Torrey Pines, LCC, big rivalry in the North County. It was the Falcons of Torrey that beat the La Costa Canyon Mavericks 67-65. Good battle between two top 10 teams. And then up in the Vista area, RBV knocks down the Vista Panthers 74-68. Top 10 in high school, according to the San Diego Union Tribune Writers Poll. Carlsbad comes in at number 1, 19-2 on the season. They had 11 first-place votes. Montgomery, number 2, is 6 first-place votes, also at 19-2. Remember, Montgomery did beat Carlsbad earlier in the season. St. Augustine 3, Torrey Pines 4, Santa Fe Christian 5, La Jolla Country Day 6, Cathedral Catholic 7, La Costa Canyon 8, Mission Hills 9, and Mission Bay 10. 8 of the top 10 schools went undefeated last week. La Costa Canyon's only loss was to top-ranked Torrey Pines at number 4. Mission Bay's only loss was to St. Augustine. So that's your look at the top 10. Olympian, who's 20-0, just on the outside looking in. San Marcos, RBV, and Southwest San Diego. Having a great year at 20-2, all in the receiving votes category.
So there it is, from the NFL to the NBA to college basketball to San Diego Wave FC, full arena sports report, and even high school in 10 minutes we got you completely up to date on everything happening in San Diego sports and in the world of sports. That's the 12 o'clock Sports Fix. That's what you can expect on Annie and Elsten every day at 12 o'clock. Set a reminder to it. Get ready. That's your quick refresh on it's your reset. Basically, it's your sports reset for the day, and it happens right at 12 o'clock. We do it every single day on Annie and Elsten. Now, Braden, I mentioned this. I know you're not a big NBA fan, but gotta love the reading of tea leaves in the league. And the more you get into the league, the more you get this kind of drama and such. And it is part of what makes being an NBA fan exciting. So I was reading the Athletic Bounce newsletter that they put out, their NBA newsletter, which I get in my inbox, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week, I think. And Shams reading the tea leaves last night. Lakers have been heavily discussed in potential trades. DeJounte Murray out of Atlanta, their high-scoring guard. Zach LaVine, former UCLA kid out of Chicago, or maybe DeMar DeRozan, or even Alex Caruso out of Chicago. These have been some hot topics. I was kind of expecting, Braden, to see a Lakers trade announced today, and it hasn't happened yet. And it's not to say that it won't happen. But what did happen last night is D'Angelo Russell played his best game as a Laker. And he, of course, was the number 2 pick of the Lakers back in the 2010s, and then was traded along to Minnesota. And he's continued back, and then they traded back for him last year at the deadline. They re-signed him. D'Angelo went for over 30 points last night. I think he had 8 assists without a turnover. He made an incredible move, Magic Johnson style, where he did a behind-the-back dribble to himself on a fast break that made all the SportsCenter highlights. But Shams, through a couple of Lakers Twitter fan accounts, found a clip of, at the end of the game, D'Angelo Russell literally wiping away tears on the bench, seeming somewhat disconsolate. He was then interviewed on the Spectrum Sportsnet postgame show, and he sounded like someone waxing philosophical about the end of a time and talking about how he never thought in his career before that he would ever be able to throw a bounce pass dunk to LeBron James, and all these things that you work for, that you dream of coming true, and they come true. And I'm like, did D'Lo find out in the fourth quarter that he was traded? Did he actually did somebody tell him
that he was going to be traded?
Yeah, dude,
you just played your last game, buddy.
Yeah, guess what? It's not official yet, but we're sending you and Rui Hachimura to XY. We're sending you to Atlanta, maybe. And he's just because it's when you see it, you really do wonder. You're kind of like, wow, man, why would you just had a great game. You're an NBA player. Why are you kind of crying and wistful on the bench in the late fourth quarter? So just keep an eye on that. Maybe D'Lo just, had an emotional moment for himself, and we should respect him as a man and, allow him to feel his feelings. Or maybe he was told, dude, this was your last game as a Laker. Hope you enjoyed it.
I can see that. Who was the New York Met that thought he was traded, right? That was crying in the dugout, and then he ended up staying on the team because the trade didn't go through.
Oh yeah, who was that?
God, I always forget. I forget his name. I remember, but it's he hasn't played for the Mets in a long time now. I think he ended up on the Giants. I think he was on the Giants the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember that was a huge scene. He was all upset because I think he was from New York or something like that. He was a big fan favorite of the Mets.
Wilmer Flores.
That's what it was. It was Wilmer Flores. That kind of gives me Wilmer Flores vibes.
It does, doesn't it?
The D'Angelo Russell deal.
D'Lo's been playing well. The Lakers' problem is not necessarily D'Angelo Russell. It's just, I think they've decided that he's not the solution, and he's got a very tradable contract. So they're just looking to make a move because it's LeBron. I mean, honestly, every year that you have LeBron James on your team, you are under an edict to do every single thing you can to win this year. Damn the torpedoes. Who cares about the future? LeBron won't be there in 2029. So trade that draft pick, trade the 2030 draft, trade all the draft picks, trade all the things, because LeBron wants another star next to him on the roster. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad attitude for LeBron to take, by the way. If you think I'm dissing LeBron James, what else is he supposed to feel? He's 39. He's still one of the 10 best players in the league. He wants to try and win a title.
He doesn't have 5 years to wait to go after it. I mean, every year of LeBron, especially with how good he is, just in general, every year of LeBron needs to be a title aspiration year for him. Otherwise, he's wasting his time.
The problem is the Lakers are wasting his time and wasting everyone's time, because even if you traded for DeJounte Murray or Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso, the Lakers are still not a top 5 team in the West. Still not a top 5 team in the West. They're not at the level of Oklahoma City or Minnesota. They're certainly not the Nuggets. And getting any of those players doesn't get you any closer to beating the Nuggets. And if you can't beat the Nuggets, the Suns, they're not in the same boulevard as the Suns right now. The Clippers, there's no way that they're better than the Clippers right now. The Clippers right now are probably the best team in the league. I mean, there's 5 teams just right off the top of the West. The Lakers are in 10th, where they have to win 2 road play-in tournament games to even make the 8 seed. It's fun talk, but it's fun talk. But I hope D'Lo wasn't shedding tears for no reason. Let's see what happens as the rest of the day plays on. Your 12 o'clock sports fix is complete on Annie and Elsten, but we've got plenty more to talk about, including later in the hour. Time for our daily trade.
I'm just glad that with that entire story that you just put out, that you weren't having the idea of making a daily Lakers trade until the trade deadline.
Rob Pelinka, only you can cancel this segment.
You know what? I think you should pitch. We should just, hopefully Annie's not listening right now and nobody warned. That could be like the surprise segment that we decided to come up with. The Lakers trade segment. We'll see what she feels about that.
Just drop it on her kind of randomly.
I'll make some imaging. I will have I'll instead of getting the big voice guy, I'll just have you do the big voicing for it, and we'll just play. Hey, Annie, we got a great idea for a new segment. You ready for it? Here we go. We already got the imaging made for it.
Let's make a trade Lakers style.
And then we'll add the clip of you saying, "Hey, Rob Pelinka, this only goes on." Craig is at it again. Except he uses the ESPN trade simulator.
Oh, cool. Our lights just went out.
Yeah, there you go. They're back. You just got to go like this. I was concerned about that on Saturday during my.
Oh, so that was. I was just thinking that we had a rain power outage.
Right no. That's just you were too still in your chair. Why do you think I'm always like squirming around here? I got to keep the lights on in this
AJ
place.
Hawk would just be in complete darkness every day.
That's right.
He froze in the chat. That was a great bit that Woods did the other day. All right, let's take a break. Seeing a lot of love for our Ran NBA segment. I am a gigantic NBA fan, listening audience. I just want to let you know that. It is truly one of my favorite leagues. It's a league that I follow daily. I'm a member of an NBA fantasy league through Padres Hot Tub Discord that's been alive for 3 seasons now. I've finished at least top 4 in the league every year. I truly dig the NBA. And if you ever give me a chance to unleash and talk NBA, I will talk NBA right at you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:24 in soaked San Diego on Annie and Elsten. Welcome back. Greg Elsten, Braden Soprenet with you. Annie Halbrin has the day off. Hopefully she is keeping dry. I am kind of transfixed to Twitter right now, Braden, and for all the things that have wrecked this website over the course of the last year or two, it's still the best place for real-time information. It's still the best place to see the images when something is happening. Here from the National Weather Service, today, as of 11:30 a.m., was already the 7th wettest day in San Diego history. 2.66 inches of rain. That's for a half day, Braden. The all-time record wettest day in San Diego history, 3.34 inches of rain, December 2nd, 1854. Predating this radio station, I believe.
1854, like before the main part of the Civil War. 1854. That's a long time ago.
The 49ers were actual prospectors.
That's right. They're finding gold in those hills.
I mean, it was just, they're the 5 years agoers. They weren't even the 49ers. They were just the guys from 5 years ago.
Old Town was paved with streets of gold, man.
Unbelievable. 2.6 inches of rain from midnight to 11:30 a.m. today. All sorts of pictures. We saw the trolley downtown flooded.
I saw that one. My Instagram account's been kind of the same too, with all the rain, with different people that live downtown and different people that live in Mission Valley. And I've seen, I've already started to see some Teslas try to turn into boats in parking lots. Even parking lots are flooded.
Yeah. National Avenue flooded solid.
If you really want to do yourself, as long as you're not driving right now, if you pull up your Maps app on your phone, whatever map app you use, and you just like put the traffic thing on and you zoom into the downtown area, I mean, there are so many closed signs on major freeways and major roadways. And we don't do traffic during our time slot because it's not a big travel time deal, but this would be a time to get those Kelly Danick updates as quickly as possible, because there's a lot of closed freeways, a lot of closed streets, not a lot of moving around in San Diego today.
Balsamic Vidi says 78 West is closed after College due to extreme flooding. Lemon Grove flooded. The Harbor Police just put out a tweet 30 minutes ago saying following areas should be avoided: North Harbor Drive at Laurel, Pacific Highway at Laurel, Shelter Island at Anchorage, and Pacific Highway between Broadway and Laurel. All of these areas are completely flooded. And the number one thing San Diego Police and Fire would like you to know today is if you see a flooded street, turn around.
Don't drive into it.
Turn around. Do not drown. Do not drown your car. Do not put yourself at risk and then force the city to put their very limited resources toward you. You still have an opportunity right now. So again, I'll say the same thing I said at 10. If anyone out there is listening to this in their car, please look at your speedometer. If you are driving on the freeway and you are anything 50 miles or above right now, you need to slow down. Like, you legitimately need to slow down. No matter how confident you are in your car, in your tires, in your ability to drive, there is so much standing water on the freeways right now that even if you don't hydroplane, you could be soaking the car behind you, next to you, even across the road from you, causing them to lose sight and create an accident. Let's not make this the worst day of the year. Let's just make it the rainiest day of the year. So please be careful. Avoid traveling right now. That is official recommendation. If you can possibly avoid being in your car, don't be there. And if you see a roadway that you think you might be able to drive through and have some fun, turn around.
That's not fun.
Take the long way.
That's not fun. It's not fun. Being stranded on top of your car and being rescued on local news is not fun. That's not something you want to do. I do have some road closures for you posted by different city accounts. City of Coronado posted on X. There's heavy flooding in the area and are urging drivers to stay off the roads. City says sandbags are available at the K's Fire Station in Coronado. Village Elementary School in Coronado has significant flooding through the whole building. City of San Diego posted on X, following city streets are closed for safety concerns due to flooding. San Diego Mission Road between Fairmount and Caminito Yucatan, Ward Road to Camino del Rio North, and Avenida del Rio between Riverwalk Drive and Camino de la Reina is also closed. A lot of stuff downtown, major flooding. There are reports of major flooding on the 805 at Home Avenue, according to the County of San Diego Public Works. Quarry Road is closed between the 125 and Lakeview Drive, and Country Club Drive is closed in both directions at Harmony Grove Road due to flooding. Also closed due to flooding, according to the CHP, Riverwalk Drive near Fashion Valley Mall.
Of course it is.
I mean, that's closed most of the time.
It's
anyway,
got the name River in it.
I-5 exit to Hawthorne to San Diego International Airport and eastbound State Route 78 near El Camino Real. Special weather statement has been issued for San Diego, Chula Vista, and El Cajon until noon. Those areas can expect up to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. No hail is expected after the severe thunderstorm warning that was issued for South Bay, which expired at 11:15 a.m. There's a lot of stuff around San Diego Naval Base, San Diego State University. All of those are being updated on local news sites as well. Aztec Circle closed due to falling rocks caused by heavy rain and flooding. San Diego State remains open, but the university has announced that Canyon Crest Drive between parking lot 15 and Aztec Circle is closed.
You know, it's another great source of real-time information is the radio.
That's right.
And there are times when you do a show and you're doing a toy show, sports talk show, you're just goofing around, and you just got to turn it into public service because that's what's needed for the city and for the community at that time. And that's kind of where we are right now, gang. I mean, next segment, we'll try and conjure up a fake trade, but the reality of the situation is we are experiencing a weather event here in San Diego that, yes, I know, I can see the folks, that are checking in from Oklahoma and checking in from Michigan and being like, yeah, weather bad, we get it. But it does bear repeating for people who don't understand our city or haven't been here a long time that our roadways aren't built for this.
There's certain cities that are not built for certain things. I could, if we want to play that game, which I don't, but I remember there was a lot of times when I was in Texas where like a 1-point-something earthquake or 2-point-something earthquake happened, and it was a mass panic by everybody in Texas. And I was just like, that's happens all the time. I mean, I sleep through the 3-point-something earthquake. So nothing is ever to be, not taken seriously when you're talking about Mother Nature. Mother Nature is a very dangerous thing. You should take all of it seriously. And certain areas are obviously built and prepared for certain weather events than other cities are.
We are designed to flood. That's literally our downtown is designed to flood. Our Mission Valley is designed to flood, and it floods. So everybody, please be careful. This has been your public service rain tracker segment on Annie and Elsten, and we're probably going to do another one next hour because this literally could be, if this doesn't let up, say it again, it's already the 7th wettest day as of 11:30 in the morning. This doesn't let up this afternoon. You could be living through the wettest day in San Diego's history since we've had a city. I mean, probably something happened in the the Pleistocene era or something that we don't know. But the wettest day in San Diego history today, January 22nd, 2024. So please be safe. Please be careful and hang out with us. It's a good, safe place to be. When we come back, it's time for the daily segment that only AJ Preller can cancel. And he could do it. Announce a trade during the commercial break, and we will cancel Let's Make a Trade. Instead, we're going to find ourselves a Cardinals outfielder when we come back. Annie and Elsten, it's your new midday hang. Stay dry, stay safe on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. The Odyssey app lets you jump back into the moments you missed on 97.3 The Fan. While you are listening to 97.3 The Fan, you can see what you missed and click to listen on demand. Missed a guest or a feature or something crazy that happened earlier? We got you covered. Download the free Odyssey app, search 97.3 The Fan, and tap earlier today to get started. You don't know how comfortable it makes me feel, Braden, to hear the tunes, the intended tunes for the show. Little Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats right there.
That's right. This is on your list of songs that you put into the group.
I love that song. It's a great song, great album recently. Just talking about flooding reminded me of do you remember 2010 when the Poinsettia Bowl was almost canceled from flooding?
Qualcomm was just completely underwater, and in the surrounding area around, like that'd be the southeast side of Qualcomm, like the parking lot was just all underwater.
It's wild.
I do remember that. Shots
of the field being messed. Poor Bruce Binkowski, Mark Neville having to get the pumps out there. And then San Diego State played the very next day. December 23rd, 2010, beat Navy 35-14 in the Poinsettia Bowl. Ronnie Hillman, 4 touchdowns, 228 yards rushing. I was the PA announcer for that game. I was the PA announcer for all the Poinsettia Bowls from when they started to when they finished.
It's a fun bowl game.
It was
a cool little bowl game they had in town, and that fit perfectly for Snapdragon Stadium. Now I know they're focused on the Holiday Bowl now, but Sports San Diego, I like everything that they do over there, creating events to come to San Diego. And the thing that's like really frustrating, I understand it from their perspective, is all the events they're creating, like especially colleges and Aztec fans are like, why don't we get invited? It's like, well, you're already here. We're trying to get people to show up. And if we're trying to drive tourism, why only bring one team to play San Diego State when I can play two to four teams to all play each other and bring a large crowd to San Diego? It's called tourism. They're made for tourism, not to just promote the Aztecs. Although, I understand why Aztec fans would be disgruntled about some of that stuff, but that's the logic behind it. I know Mark explains that to us every time he's on, but I do want to reiterate that point because they're doing a lot of great things for San Diego based on sports. I love it.
All right. It is time. We will not tally. We will not delay one moment longer.
I tried. You don't want to see what interstate? You don't want to see what Route 78 looks like in Oceanside, Craig?
You showed me. It's a river.
It's over by. That's literally the exit. Like I would take to get to like El Camino High School, where like the roadhouse is.
Yeah.
On the side of the.
Yeah.
The entire freeway is underwater.
Yeah, 78 is closed. You think traffic on the 78 is bad? Just wait till you can't even use it.
It was closed early, like last year too. Didn't it like some of it collapse?
Yes.
In a certain spot. It's
yes.
Just it's a tough freeway.
I used to have to make that drive every single day as a full-time employee of the San Diego Sockers. Their offices are on the Carlsbad-San Marcos border. It's technically Carlsbad, but like a block over or a block up, and it's San Marcos. And so from La Mesa to halfway down the 78 was my daily to and fro. And this would have been one of those mornings where I would have been like, boss, I just no.
Can't make it.
Just no.
Aren't you going to have to do that in the future?
What? Drive up there?
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, drive up to Oceanside for the new arena.
Right?
Yeah. But for match days.
Well, let me ask you this, because I don't know where it's at. Is it in Oceanside, or like Vista Fallbrook Oceanside? Because there's two different types of. There's the El Camino High School. Let's see, with being involved with high school athletics for so long, I know like there's the El Camino Oceanside, and then there's the Oceanside. Which part is it? Yeah.
So you can access it from Oceanside Boulevard. And you will be able to eventually see the arena from some of the holes at Goat Hill.
Oh.
So I'm going to say Oceanside. It's about a mile inland on Oceanside Boulevard.
But it's not like El Camino Oceanside. Seems
correct.
Like it's more like Fallbrook or Vista.
No. It's the El Corazon Sports Complex.
Oh, nice.
Where there's a whole bunch of soccer fields already and kind of like an elderly care facility. and soon a state-of-the-art new arena.
When is that completed?
August, it's supposed to be.
Oh, nice. Have
Yeah.
you been up there to see the building process, your hard hat, like all the like you always see when NFL and Major League Baseball teams get new stadiums?
Yeah, a year ago I was there when it was totally flooded from all the raining.
And we have come full circle.
Indeed, we have. See how I did that? I tied that up so we can get to Let's Make a Trade. That's right. It's the segment that only AJ Preller can cancel. Here's the conceit. The Padres are doing nothing. They're doing nothing. And we have a show to fill every single day on the Padres flagship. So we have decided to create here on this show on Annie and Elsten, essentially a writer's room for the Padres front office. If AJ, if Josh, if all the folks in the front office are just a little stymied, they're a little stumped, they're a little blocked. They don't feel like they've got that feng shui going in the office. We're here to punch up some ideas for you every day on Annie and Elsten at 12:45. Come up with a new imaginary fake trade for the San Diego Padres that they could make. I think our major goal, Braden, is to not be ludicrous, right? To come up with at least somewhat realistic ideas that might actually help the San Diego Padres.
I have to ask, what is your rhyme or reason for like the teams you pick? Because it's kind of been all over the place. Just random? We're just doing random?
No, I'm
or
looking for needs.
You come with an idea like, oh, maybe these guys can, and that's why that's the team that's next?
Correct. I'm just like, who has a need to move something that we need and we could maybe sync up on? Right. And sometimes it's a little more speculative than others. Like, I don't actually know that Detroit wants to trade Zach McKinstry, or for that matter, that the Angels want to trade Mickey Moniak, but they're not at the top of the depth chart. So they should be at least a little bit available. And that's the idea behind today's trade, my dear friends. We're going to go to the Midwest. We're going to go to St. Louis, Missouri, where the St. Louis Cardinals have a glut in one position. Isn't it funny? They have a lot of outfielders, Braden. The Padres don't have any outfielders except for Fernando Tatis. He's a shortstop. He's a very good outfielder, too. But in left field, the Cardinals are planning to start Brendan Donovan. Tommy Edman, who's been a middle infielder, they're looking at him as potentially being a center fielder this year. Lars Nootbaar is a big part of the Cardinals' future. He's young. He's controllable. He's one of the best defensive outfielders in all of Major League Baseball. And then there's Jordan Walker, who is the Cardinals' #1 prospect and made his Major League debut last year and is expected to grow into a full-time cleanup hitter slugging role. So I ask, where does that leave Dylan Carlson? Dylan Carlson was also supposed to be a big-time prospect for the St. Louis Cardinals. He was their first-round draft pick in 2016 out of high school, out of Elk Grove High School. And now, many years later, Dylan Carlson is 25 years old. He's had 1,300 at-bats in the major leagues, but he's still looking to unlock the promise of a switch hitter with the type of glove that can hold and carry center field. So my question today is, what would it take for the San Diego Padres to pry Dylan Carlson, a prospect that has lost steam in the St. Louis organization, and maybe give him a fresh start and a reset here in San Diego, California?
Value's not very high on Dylan Carlson on the trade machine there.
It is not. It's not very high at all.
No.
6.8 surplus value. And of course, the trade machine is magical. I could trade a single A player for Joe Musgrove on the trade machine, and it would say fair deal because Joe Musgrove is listed as like -1 surplus value. He's expected to pitch to his contract. So there's a lot of context missing from Baseball Trade Value's trade simulator. But here's what I came up with today for Let's Make a Trade, Braden. I'm putting a young outfielder that's still a couple years away for the San Diego Padres on the board. Sammy Zavala, a player with helium, a player that's rising, but is a couple years away and has yet to pierce the veil of the upper minor leagues where some of his holes could maybe potentially be discovered. And I'm asking back from the Cardinals for Dylan Carlson and a young left-hander that is coming off of Tommy John surgery, Packy Naughton, one of the great names in baseball. I'm looking for Dylan Carlson and Packy Naughton from the St. Louis Cardinals. I've got a real thinking behind the Naughton part of this as a throw-in. He should be back from surgery by mid-season this year, and there would be just perfect timing for a Padres team that'll probably have Adrian Morejon on the disabled list by that point. If he got to 15 or 30 innings, he's probably toast. You've got a young guy in Cosgrove. You've got Matsui, who we don't know what's going to happen. The Padres need more left-handed relievers. Just as a team overall, specific to 2024, they need more left-handed relievers. Packy Naughton actually did quite well in 2022 in terms of ground ball rate. His sliders, if you go to Baseball Savant, are pretty nice, to be honest with you. And then he got hurt last year after four outings and 5 innings pitched. And he had to have non-Tommy John surgery, but a surgery that'll take a year to recover. So what do you think? Carlson and Naughton, and then we send one of our better prospects, Zavala.
I don't mind that. It gives the St. Louis Cardinals a replacement in the outfield for the future, but not in the immediate need, and somebody that they can develop, or somebody that they could probably package for more pitching later during the season if they need that. So I do think that's a solid move for St. Louis, and I think it's a good move for the Padres too. You get Dylan Carlson to help in the outfield. He's obviously the odd man out over there in St. Louis, where he could be an everyday starter for the Padres. And then, I'm sure you can make a Peaky Blinders segment out of Naughton. So I'm sure it's a plus for everybody, including our talk show.
Yeah, put on your Packy Blinders and
Packy Naughton sounds like a character from Peaky Blinders.
Naughton, honey.
That's right.
I'm all about Packy Naughton, just for the name, just for the arm. But once again, what are we doing in these segments? We try, I think, maybe once a week to go big, right? Each week we've had one, like, make a big trade multiple top prospects, bring in a controllable starting pitcher, whether you're going to Florida, asking the Miami Marlins for a Jesus Luzardo, whether you're going to the White Sox, asking for a Dylan Cease, whether you're going to Cleveland, asking for a Shane Bieber. Trades like that are potential for the Padres, but this club, we're ballers on a budget. We're dollarnaires in 2024. So we need to be creative. We need to start looking in these corners and try and find distressed assets on other teams' rosters that might make more sense here, and say, okay, change of scenery, new look, position's yours. You don't have to worry about Newt Barr and Walker right behind you, and Donovan, all these guys who are on the come taking your job. This is your job for this year, Dylan. This is your position. You've got center field. Let's see what you can do. Placeholder for Marcy years down the road? Quite possibly. Or he breaks out, and then you've got one of those great deals, like the Cronenworth trade, one of those great deals, finding somebody in another organization that isn't being thought of that way. Same age, pretty much, as when they got Cronenworth, 25 years old. That's my idea, is go get a kid like Carlson and see if this was his breakout year. If not, you didn't spend a ton. You didn't sacrifice your future to get him. He's still potentially someone you could flip to somewhere else. And you've got players coming up the pipeline to replace him.
Yeah, he's a nice little placeholder to fit our narrative of today's show. I'd love to see the Padres be able to get a guy like Tommy Edman, although I don't think the Cardinals would ever give him up. See the local product back in San Diego. It's a great leadoff bat for the Cardinals. I know he's batted last and leadoff and kind of all over the place. Super utility guy that could play and do it all. Who, by the way, was just recently in town to get inducted into La Jolla Country Day Hall of Fame, with Kelsey Plum also inducted in La Jolla Country Day Hall of Fame over the weekend. So I didn't mention that in the What's Good. That could have been a What's Good. That could have been a topic for our Sports Fix, but I know his family lives here. Him and his wife live here, even though they got a place in St. Louis. It'd be nice for him to be back in his hometown too. But that would cost a lot more than your potential deal. Your potential deal is safe and benefits both sides and doesn't cost a lot, which I do like.
RDJ Kronos in the chat says, I would not mind the Moniak trade from last week paired with this trade. And then you have a Carlson, Moniak, Tatis outfield.
I like that. I mean, because you'd have Moniak in center, you have Carlson in left, Tatis in right, Your lineup's pretty good. I mean, you could roll with. I don't like Cronenworth at first base, but you could do that. Like I said before, Carlson, Moniak, Tatis. Assuming for opening day, obviously we'll put Kim at third. Well, let's put Kim at second. We'll go Machado, Bogarts, Kim, Cronenworth, Camposano / Higashioka, depending on the day. It's a pretty good overall lineup. Not too many
Still need a
holes,
DH,
but you still need you really need a DH. Unless you want to move things around. You need a DH / a first baseman in general.
The other thing is, if you did make a trade, like let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that you did make those 2 trades, then signing Jurickson Profar for $3 million to be your 4th outfielder, boy, that all of a sudden looks a lot better.
That's a solid 4th outfielder. He's a solid major league player, not an everyday starter anymore, but he's a solid major league player, obviously with the ability to do a lot and to give another extra option out there. Plus, he can bat from both sides of the plate, which is great to see, and adds more versatility to a lineup and a lot of veteran experience to a major league lineup. And we've seen what he has done in a Padres uniform compared to in a Rockies and A's uniform. He obviously likes being here and feels comfortable. And for that price, it would make a lot of sense.
Hey, who said there's no positivity around the San Diego Padres?
Right.
Even in the darkest winter, when the rain continues to fall and nothing happens, each and every day on Annie and Elsten, we make trade. We get the Padres someone new. We start to dream again. We start to believe. Hope springs eternal, even in a waterlogged heart. That was Let's Make a Trade, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. But AJ, you have the power to cancel this segment, but not to cancel hour number 4 of Annie and Elsten. It's coming back. Your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Back with you for hour number 4. Welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. It's Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We are an Annie-free zone today, unfortunately. Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet here with you. Annie is out all day for her San Diego Sports Association work and getting ready for Salute to Champions on February 5th. Hopefully the hotel wasn't flooded today.
You think my softball game's canceled?
I think it is. It is.
The Sportsplex already put out a thing like this morning. They were active on it before, but some people are like, I don't know, maybe we can play later when the sun breaks out.
Oh, the heavy stuff isn't even coming yet.
That's right. It's the greatest round of my life. Lake Poway might have got bigger, and there might be a separate Lake Poway. Might be at the Poway Sportsplex.
Yeah, it is a crazy one out there today. We're going to continue to pass along the road closures that we get here. Just surfing social media, I watched a dog on a surfboard be rescued out of Mission Beach an hour ago by firefighters. If you are stranded, be patient. If you are driving and you see flooding ahead of you, don't be stupid.
Don't go into it. I've already seen one car based on one of my friend's videos in Mission Valley that goes to the notorious spot in Mission Valley that has to cut through the river, and there's already a car completely underwater. You do not try to cross the San Diego River, especially those roads that go down and around it where it's dried out. It's not going to work. Never works.
And if you're driving, please slow down. This is the day for it. Don't worry about being late to something. Everyone is going to understand. In San Diego, your boss, even your mean boss, is going to understand in San Diego. He or she will give you a little stick today, but not that much. It's much better to be safe. Witnessed a bad accident on the way to work here today. Witnessed another one over the weekend. This is not the time to be brave. This is not the time to be silly. It's a great time to chill. Listen to the radio. Hopefully you're enjoying the YouTube feed. Maybe you're listening on the Odyssey app, or wherever you are. Just try and stay safe. Stay dry. Check your house out. Keep your pets in mind. Please don't leave them outside. I just saw one image of National Avenue underwater, and part of it was seeing a pit bull out there in his backyard just soaking. Miserable. So keep your pets in mind as well. We've got sports talk for you between here and 2 o'clock. That's when Gwen and Chris check in. They're going to probably do that too. Probably more sports talk. Then at 6 o'clock, it's Matt Scraby with the Scraby Show from 6 to 7. All of our shows live on YouTube. All of our shows live on the Odyssey app. We've had nothing to talk about in baseball, so we made up another trade. Coming up to wrap up the show is going to be Ask Us Anything. That is our catch-all segment to end the program, where we open up the phone lines, give you a chance to call us and ask us anything, because we're a new show. You don't know me that well. You don't know Braden that well. We don't know each other that well. Neither one of Annie's just a complete cipher today. Haven't got a word out of her yet. So ask us anything is your chance to literally ask us anything. Doesn't have to be about sports. In fact, it's often better if it's not about sports. So that's coming up to wrap up the show. Here we kind of hit reset on today's top stories. We mentioned golf a little bit earlier. It is just ridiculous to even think that the Farmers Insurance Open will start with a Pro-Am tomorrow. The course is going to be completely waterlogged, and Torrey is incredible. I mean, my beloved Mission Trails is definitely closed today and tomorrow, and probably for a little while, because the tunnel from 10 to 11 gets flooded just with light rain. Never mind what we've been dealing with here. All your favorite golf courses are probably completely waterlogged and soaked, and yet the Farmers will take place. Coming up, there is news from the last just few minutes, Braden. We talked about Nick Dunlap, the 20-year-old Alabama sophomore, University of Alabama, who, as an amateur, won the PGA Tour event, the Amex last weekend. He just announced in the last 10 minutes that he has withdrawn from the Farmers Insurance Open. He had previously said that he was coming to San Diego for this week's event. He said that before he won the championship last weekend, and I think he's had an incredibly busy day and said he's going to spend the week in Alabama with friends and family celebrating that championship. So that's a bummer for us, because it really would have been one of the biggest stories of the week if Nick Dunlap came out here.
Yeah, it would have been cool, especially with everything with, just the state of golf right now, and a lot of the big golfers not on the PGA Tour anymore, so you don't get to see all those big names. A lot of players that we used to see year in and year out at Torrey Pines. The Tiger Woods of the world, and Phil Mickelson. Obviously, some of the older players are getting up there in age. So the fields not as usually heavy hitters as much as we've seen in the past. And the cool thing about Torrey Pines is when they get back on the U.S. Open tour, when they get announced, those 3, 4, 5 years, however long it is before, you start getting the big names showing up again because they want to get an advantage for the U.S. Open. That's where you get to see Rory go out there and compete, the John Rahms of the world, and you start going through the list, and anybody who's everybody goes and plays Torrey. And they all love the course. I mean, I like all the events here in San Diego, nobody leaves going, man, I don't like this place. Everybody leaves going, it's one of my favorite courses to play. It's one of my favorite cities to be in. And it's a nice little tune-up before you get ready for the thick of things on the PGA Tour. But, with all the circumstances and uncertainties in golf, it's a tough slate, if you will. But still got a lot of the local guys out there, which is great in the field, and should still be a really fun tournament. It always is at Torrey Pines.
Some past champions in the field: Max Homa, Jason Day, Brandt Snedeker, Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, Colin Morikawa are going to be here. Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Keegan Bradley. So a very strong field, including several of the top 30 players in the world. But it's a weird time for the PGA Tour right now, Braden. It's just a weird time. You now have the signature events created as a reaction to Live Golf with supersized prize pools. And naturally, the world's best that qualify for the signature events are going to focus on the signature events. This is now considered, the Farmers, a second tier event on the PGA Tour. So by definition, it's going to draw a weaker field unless, like you said, maybe a U.S. Open is around the corner and people are trying to, get in 4 rounds, 5 rounds here and get some turf information for a coming year. Beyond that, there was some reporting today, at least rumored reporting, Kurt Kenny in the San Diego Union Tribune, that Farmers is going to pull up stakes after 2026. And the tournament will be in search of a new sponsor. That's not unusual. I think I've just gotten used to calling it the Farmers as opposed to calling it the Buick.
Yeah, the Buick Invitational.
Which is what it was for decades. So, it's been various sponsors over the years. It's obviously going to be harder to draw a top-tier sponsor for a second-tier tournament. It's easier because it's San Diego and because, like you said, it's just one of those nice signature spots on the West Coast swing for the PGA Tour, where a lot of people just want to play it anyhow. But this is such a bizarre time because a year ago, it was always about Live Golf versus the PGA Tour and this horrible Saudi blood money that is trying to take away the world's top golfers. And then you have the PGA Tour trying to do its best, and obviously with all the decades of issues of its own, but nonetheless almost trying to find the moral high ground in terms of the battle for golf supremacy. And now everyone is sort of in a messy bed together. And the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia is looking to put money into the PGA Tour, and they're becoming partners, and it's not ratified. And obviously the schism continues, but it's getting more and more unseemly, to be honest. And on one side, it would be exciting, as Rory McIlroy talked about a week ago, Braden, to have a Champions League for golf and to have something where all the world's top tours fed in to something above that, to a league of leagues, and European soccer fans completely get the concept of that. At the same time, the underpinning for all of that financially is morally questionable, not even questionable. You can't be morally in favor of it.
Well, the thing, money, that's going to drive everything. I mean, if that group of people wanted to start their own football league and they could pay the athletes better than the NFL can, then they were going to get all the best athletes. Same thing with baseball, same thing with any type of sport. Because at the end of the day, when you're playing professional sports and somebody's going to offer you generational changing money, people are taking that. And as much as everybody that wasn't given that offer can easily say, I would never do such a thing, I'm so morally superior, until you're in that situation, until you start thinking about your own family and start thinking about, some of these decisions that are made, you can't really say that because it's a difficult decision for a lot of guys. But it's the thing that's interesting to me. It's the PGA. And again, I don't agree with obviously the politics and the morals of the people that back the Live Tour, right? I mean that it's and I don't think anybody really does, including the golfers that take the money from that league. But the PGA Tour for a very long time could get away with a payment system for their athletes where you have to win to get paid.
Right.
You had to win to get paid, which, that's not from a consumer standpoint. That's not bad, right?
Great, actually.
I mean, everybody's out there trying to win. And if they win, they make money. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people that love to see baseball contracts like that, right? Where you get these big contracts and guys are like, yeah, well, I made my money. I don't really care. But when they're hunting for it, all of a sudden it's a lot different. But here comes Live Golf and they go, I'm going to pay you more money this year than you have ever made in the history of you playing in the PGA up front. That's a difficult no to give some of these guys. And I think it's before you cast judgment. I think, and this is just in every walk of life, I think it's very easy to always say, I would always do the right thing and I would never do this sort of thing. Until you're in that situation, I think it's very difficult to judge. That's why, again, I disagree with what the Live Tour says, but that's why I find it like very difficult, for me to listen to Rory on his moral high horse about how things should go because he's benefited from the PGA. I think because here's the main, aside from like the big guys, I mean, if you're like, Dustin Johnson, right? Or some of these big name golfers that are already making a ton, but for those like mid-tier guys to be offered generational changing money to continue to do what you do and in fact work less when really you don't have any situation on everything that is controversial about Live Golf. I think it's very difficult to sit here and cast blame on them when put yourself in the same situation, would you be able to do that? It's easy to say, yes, I would turn it down until that contract's in front of you.
Right. I mean, John Rahm was given reportedly $500 million.
That's insane.
Of Saudi money to play on Live Golf. The entire PGA Tour purse for 2023 was like $430 million.
If I gave you if the Saudis decided to give you $30 million a year to do this show, right? That'd be a difficult decision to make for where it's coming from, but also what it would do for your family. And I understand it's like it's almost like that deal you're making with the devil, but the devil's in the details on a lot of these things. I mean, they were given an opportunity because again, this is their side of it. I am going to pay you more than any money you have made in your entire life right now to do what you're currently doing, but for a less amount of time. I guarantee you most people listening to this show, when given that opportunity in their line of work, would probably say yes to that, understanding the far off situations that might be happening on this tour. The thing that's the worst, though, is for the sport of golf. And that's where I do agree. This hurts the sport of golf because they should be having everybody together in this situation and not totally separate on different tours, because from a golf fan perspective, now we don't get some of the top golfers in the world to come through San Diego, right? You can't get all those guys. And again, everything that happens from a moral standpoint that does not involve the athletes, but involves what happens in Saudi Arabia, to me is a different topic of discussion. And if you want to say, just not taking the deal is going to be a major impact on that, it's really not, because they're going to spend their money on whatever they want to spend it on anyway, and somebody is always going to take the deal. But I will say, I think the PGA, and here's the thing, and I mentioned with the NFL, like the NFL is king right now, right? I mean, there's nobody threatening them. They have no threats because nobody can match the amount of money the NFL currently has. But if they had that situation, all of a sudden, maybe they would have to change their salary cap, and maybe they would have to change the way they do things and how they treat players, because they would all of a sudden have some competition. PGA Tour had a long period of time where they were king, gluttonous, taking all the money, right, and doing things a certain way, and now they have competition. All of a sudden, it's, well, we're the moral high ground. That's where they lose me in this entire conversation.
If you are Rory McIlroy and you make enough money,
right, you have the ability,
or John
to do
Rahm for that matter, but no one's going to give him $500 million. Right. The PIF will, but you said it, Braden. The devil's in the details, and here is a devilish detail, and it's something that's really not been talked about in most sports talk circles because it's deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable. Okay, but last week The Athletic reported that the chairman of Live Golf, Yasser Al Rumayyan, is being sued over allegations that he carried out Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's instructions of attempting to harm the family of the country's former intelligence chief. Basically, a Saudi Arabian plot to try and kill the former chief of intelligence that has left and fled the country, and their family, and that person's family, that was being executed, or at least orders carried out, not literally the bagman, but orders carried out by Yasser Al Rumayyan. So here's the guy that's literally hand on the till of the public investment fund. He is the chairman of Live Golf. He is also the chairman of Newcastle United in the English Premier League, and may have, allegedly, being sued for trying to be part of a murder. So
how do you stop that, Craig?
On an individual level, everyone's going to take the money.
Right.
And that's obvious.
I mean, how do you stop that? When a guy's got so much money and so much power, how do you, I mean, that's a political thing, obviously, and the way, different in every country is different, but like, I don't know how John Rahm fixes that problem, right? I mean, just not take the money. I mean, there's a lot of problems in this world, and a lot of it circle around money, and it comes to this philosophy. And this is the deal with everybody. And it's sad, but this is the state of the world and the state of people is everybody has a price of doing something. There is a price for everything out there. And for some of these golfers, the price that they accepted is that price. I mean, all of us have a price. As much as we want to say that we are always going to do the right thing, when it comes to money and what it would do for your own life, everybody's got a price. And obviously, those soccer teams that are involved in that situation, whatever league that is, they have a price of allowing this to happen. The same thing with golf, and the same thing with a lot of politicians and politics throughout the world. Everybody's got a price. And the power of that is undeniable. Previously, there was reporting out of the UK that when the attempted takeover of Newcastle by the Public Investment Fund was being challenged, that Mohammed bin Salman straight up let Boris Johnson know that if you hold this up, it's going to be problems for your country. It's going to be financial implications for your country. It's a mess. It is sports washing. That is what's happening. And it's just a tricky time to be a big fan of golf. It's a tricky time to be a big fan of the Premier League. It's a tricky time to be a fan of anything that the PIF pours its money into. We did have one question in the chat which asked if SDFC was owned by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, and that is not the case. There is an ownership group
for San Diego FC. It has nothing to do with the Saudis. There is an Egyptian billionaire, Mohammed Mansour, who is the primary owner, and those are not the same places.
No, they're not.
So just wanted to make sure I cleared that up for you. Some weird stuff happening in the world of golf, but we hope the rain stops in time for the farmers tomorrow. We certainly hope that. We'll come back a little bit more Padres talk, a little Aztecs talk, and ask us anything to wrap up the show. Your chance to ask us anything. It's all coming up. Annie and Elsten right here on San Diego's #1 sports station. It's 97.3 The Fan. 126 on a rainy Monday afternoon. We offer our thanks to you for being a part of our little show here, Annie and Elsten, on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Craig Elsten with you, with Braden Soprenet. No Annie today. Annie will be back tomorrow. Cannot wait to hear her thoughts on everything in the world of sports, and she'll be here, I think, the rest of the week. Might be off on Friday, too. It's all for the San Diego Sports Association Salute to Champions. She didn't just sign a part-time deal to host Annie and Elsten. Some folks are out there like,
so a 10-day contract.
Yeah, right?
NBA contract.
Well, yeah, special deal. Craig has to work Monday through Friday. For me, it's Tuesday through Thursday.
That's right.
Outstanding arcade fire drop there, by the way. Good stuff from our man Braden. Appreciate him. Appreciate everybody who's made this show part of their day. Everyone who's watching on YouTube, on the 97.3 The Fan page, everyone who's listening on the Odyssey app, wherever you are around the world. Thank you for being a part of today. Continuing to see road closures throughout San Diego County. 2 to 3 inches of rain have fallen, according to the National Weather Service. San Diego River is actively flooding. Water levels continue to rise. The crossing roads in the river are all going to be dangerous. So anything Mission Valley related, basically stay out. Anything harbor related, you probably don't need to go down there. Like, odds are you don't need to go down there today. If you do, you absolutely want to check ahead to make sure you're not running into an awful road closure or something nasty. Also, just kind of random, but it popped over the break. Braden, you were talking about La Jolla Country Days' Tommy Edman earlier.
I did see that go circle through the X machine.
2-year contract with Tommy Edman and the St. Louis Cardinals. They are not only avoiding arbitration in this year, but they're buying out his final arbitration year. He'll be a free agent in 2026. But according to the great Katie Wu, who we tried to trade for Woods last week on the air in Let's Make a Trade, Edman and the Cardinals locked in for a 2-year deal. So now if we do Let's Make a Trade Cardinals for Tommy Edman, we've got cost certainty there.
That's right. We got 2-year cost certainty on that deal, which is good. I do want to mention we're giving away Aztec tickets when we go to break.
Yes.
Aztec
Stay tuned.
tickets when we go to break for their game against Wyoming tomorrow.
Looking forward to that. 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Make a note of that. In case you work till 5, you'd have to go straight to the arena from the game. Please don't call and win the tickets if you can't go to the game. I always say that, like
sometimes people call in and try to win, and then they go, you can just give them to somebody else. I really want the tickets. I just want to see if I could win. And I go, I don't have anybody. You were the caller I picked. You're the 5th caller. I can't give it to the next guy.
Just pick someone else.
Yeah.
I just wanted the feeling, the endorphin rush of
That's
winning.
right.
I didn't actually want the prize. I just wanted to call someone and have them tell me that I'm a winner.
Sir, this isn't a Starbucks. You can't pay it forward in the drive-thru with the giveaways. Just give it to the next guy behind me in line.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the sentiment.
I get it. Yeah, it's nice. I can't go, but can you give them away to somebody else? There's a lot of legalities with that we can't avoid. So
Roberto says he'd like to be added to the list of people who are waiting to get tickets when someone else doesn't turn them in.
Just throw in the sheet. That would be, again, we got to take it up with legal, Roberto. Got to take it up with legal.
So we were just talking last segment about the difficulty of sports washing in the modern sports world. The fact that the Saudi Public Investment Fund is being used to cover up some terrible things being done by that government. And it led you to a very interesting question during the break, and one that you could spend 4 hours on, but it's essentially, what's your price as a fan? Because again, and I think we spent a lot of the last segment, Braden, talking about, from an individual golfer's standpoint, whether they take the live money, take a $500 million contract like John Rahm did, or
$500 million to play, like, what is it, like 8 times?
Yeah.
Like, they don't even have that many events.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like a couple of times and everything else is taken care of. Plus, you could win bonus money if you win.
Insane, right?
Nuts.
So, I mean, going back to a couple of years ago, and Koepka and DJ, and now Rahm. I mean, any individual golfer that takes the money, you understand. If you're a fan who chooses to support Live Golf, you are making a choice too. You're making a choice of tacit support for the Saudi Public Investment Fund, even if DJ or Rahm is your favorite. And John Rahm's one of my favorite golfers. Like, of all the golfers on the tour, he's one of the players that, like, I love watching him. I enjoy seeing how he attacks a course. I am mystified by what he is able to do with this very same clubs that I could buy too, and yet I can't do anything close to that. But expanding it and making it a little more personal, Braden, like, what if your favorite team was purchased by the Saudi PIF? What if the Padres? It's not happening, okay? They're in the Seidler family. This is a hypothetical. But what if something like that happened? You would know that your team was going to be the most financially supported in whatever league you were in. Certainly fans of Newcastle were happy on some level, not a moral level, but they were happy to know that they would have this level of support. What if you were guaranteed to have a $500 million payroll every year? The chance to finally go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers and have that ability. But it's coming at a cost of really your sports morality. I would have a very hard time stomaching that. I'm going to be honest with you. And it'd be very difficult for me professionally because I'm working in this job right now. If something like that were to happen, I would have a hard time with that. And I think at the same time, it would be a very difficult choice for every fan that they would have to individually make.
That goes back to everybody's got a price, right? Everybody's got a price on something. And I think it's obviously it's a double-edged sword because of that, the back of your mind and the sports washing. And, I just think, and then a lot of people that have been against, the Live Tour are people that financially don't see an extra benefit of joining the Live Tour, which I don't think is the same situation as a lot of the golfers, as I mentioned, that went in, for life-changing money, generational changing money, knowing that your family is going to be taken care of for not only your kids, but your grandkids, your great-grandkids, your great-great, all the way down, multiple generations all the way through. And then from like a sports fan standpoint, I just think it's interesting to talk about of like how much of an impact would you really be having on it while also having the mindset of you can't fix all of the problems that are in this world individually. You can't. You're going to be overwhelmed with way too much stress and way too much by putting the weight of the world on your shoulders. And to me, I think that's stuff that, without getting religious or just karma, but, good things happen to good people. And I totally believe in that throughout this world. And I think if you do things the right way and you do good things, you're going to have good things happen to you. And I think this is the same thing with everything else. I think as much as, you think that you'd be, really sticking it to them, I don't think you really would be sticking it to them. And I'm a firm believer in this, Craig, and, there might be people that aren't. I think eventually the people that do bad in this world get theirs at some point or another, whether it be in this world or not. At some point or another, they're going to get theirs. And you know what? I just think, karma's a thing. I think everybody's religion out there is it's all relatively the same. I think people believe in, good things happen to good good things happen to good people, and karma is a factor. I remember, this reminded me of, when Sean Doyle, head coach at Cathedral, was talking to our football team when I was in high school. And he said, everything that you do in life eventually catches up to you, whether it be good things or bad. And he was using it as a sense of, make sure you work out during the off season, because if you don't, it's going to catch up to you during the season kind of attitude. But I think that definitely plays out in this world. You see it all the time where you might be getting away with something right now, but in the future, eventually it's going to catch up to you. We've seen that with a lot of professional athletes, right? With different things that they have done, off the field that have eventually caught up to them in some sort of fashion. We've seen that with politicians. We've seen that with all different walks of life. So to me, what I still support my own team, I think you have to understand that, there's different battles for different people. I probably would still support my local team. I think, I don't know if you can necessarily remove the owner from the team. We use that argument a lot for the Chargers. Now, obviously, the Spanos family is nowhere near, what the situation is with this particular topic. But I will say this. I mean, I just think you can't. I'm not a believer in you can't fix all the world problems. And I think eventually they're going to get theirs. And I think you just have to trust that, everything's going to work out because it usually does. So,
Yeah.
That's how I would view it, per se. Not to say that, my vote doesn't count, right? Or like what I do doesn't count. I think everybody, if they're able to stand up to it, would be able to do something. But that's a tough ask to do for a lot of people. So I live by the philosophy of good things happen to good people. And, everybody that does bad things, eventually it catches up to them.
Oliva in the chat asks me, preview Ask Us Anything. What would you do, Craig, if they offered you $100 million? Well, look, I'll be very honest with you. I don't have to answer that question because it's not going to happen. So it's a kind of ridiculous hypothetical, right? I mean, what are they offering me $100 million to do? This radio show? They're going to let me say what I want to say. I don't understand. It's a silly hypothetical because I'm not in that place. I'm not where John Rahm or Dustin Johnson is, or for that matter, Newcastle's previous owners, or anyone else that wants to deal with the PIF. I think every person makes their own individual choices, Braden. And while I agree you cannot solve the world's problems on your own, you also don't have to stand back and let the world's problems wash over you and shrug, right? You can make decisions, and each person makes an individualized decision. Would I give up my favorite team if they were owned by the Saudis? Yeah, absolutely. I would. I would do that. But I've shown that in my life. I mean, just as an example, I was the biggest locals supporter and loyal fan that you would find. I was in every game in 109. They did something 2 years. I'm not going to relitigate it. They did something 2 years ago that I strongly disagreed with, and I stopped going for the remainder of the year. And that was my personal choice. I gave away my ticket. I didn't cancel it. I gave away my ticket each week. I didn't disparage them publicly. Didn't make a big deal out of it. That was my individual decision as a consumer. It's what made me feel good. For my fandom at the end of the day. And I think every person, it's not my place, nor is it yours, nor anyone in the audience to moralize for everyone else. It's your individual decision. It's your individual being, how you feel comfortable about how you interact with the sports world. And for me, that was a decision I made. I've previously abandoned the Chargers. I was the biggest Charger fan you could find. And it was 2 years before they left. I said, I'm done. I'm done with the Spanoses. I'm done with this team. And I didn't forgive them all of their trespasses the rest of the time. I said, forget it. Get up the road, and I'm going to forget about you. That's me. And that's not to say that what I did was any better than anyone who continues to go up to Tailgate Alley and continues to support the team to SoFi to this day. That's your individual decision. That makes you feel good. And that's totally cool. We spend a lot of time in our country and in social media and online trying to moralize and trying to tell everybody else how to behave. I stand on my own 2 feet, and do what I think is the right thing for myself, for my family. And it doesn't have to agree with yours, speaking to the audience in general, or even yours, Braden, in particular. And I don't think it does. I don't think we're out of alignment in any way. But I'm just saying, like, everyone has their own individual choice, and that's the choice that they make for themselves. And that's a resolution that they will give. As you said, good things happen to good people. Karma, I believe in karma more than anything. And those decisions come around the bend. Let's take a break. Last segment, Ask Us Anything. This is the segment where you can ask us anything. Boy, maybe it's the rain. Maybe it's just the rain. We've been diving deep here on a Monday afternoon. We've been talking about selflessness. We've been talking about morality and our own individual decision platforms that we make. Now you can just ask us anything. 833-288-0973 is our number. 833-288-0973. We'll take your call if you have a question to ask us. We've got some questions stacked up in the YouTube chat as well, and we'll get to them all to wrap up Andy and Elsten. And then Gwen and Chris will be right here with Scraby from 2 till 7 p.m. on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Let's Ask Us Anything. Annie and Elsten wrapping up a 4-hour sojourn here on a Monday. The rain just won't stop. We're going to get back out into it, and we're going to drive carefully and slowly. And we thank you for being a part of our show today, and we hope that you are being very careful and taking care of yourself and taking care of those around you here today. We wrap up every day with Ask Us Anything. This is the segment that is a complete catch-all. This is where you have the chance to call in and ask us anything you want. 833-288-0973 is the number to use. We forgot to give away those Aztecs tickets, so we're going to do that at the end of the show here, so stay tuned for that as well. We also have, of course, the YouTube chat open. We'll take some questions out of the YouTube chat as well. However, let's start with a phone call because Sebastian in Chula Vista has called in to ask us anything. Sebastian, you're on with Craig and Braden. Ask us anything.
I work at a restaurant. I got a regular. I made a bet. The Dodgers won't win the World Series. Started off as $100. Then I raised it to $200. But I'm kind of confident. I kind of want to do 1,000. I know he can do it. I can do it. Am I crazy?
$1,000 straight bet. All they have to do is not lift the trophy.
Correct. Yeah.
If you're confident and you can afford it, you're not crazy. What are the odds that anyone wins the World Series?
I mean, Dave Roberts
Slow.
guaranteed a World Series, like 2 years ago? Last year?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Didn't happen.
Wasn't even close.
Didn't get out of the divisional round.
Playoffs in baseball are a crapshoot.
A $1,000 straight bet that any team won't win a championship is objectively a great bet.
I would agree with that.
There's no reason not to make that bet. It's terrible luck if you don't win. I mean, honestly, even the very best team, even if right now, like a bet on Baltimore to not win the Super Bowl, right? It's a great bet. They might win the Super Bowl. They've only got 2 games to win.
The odds are definitely in your favor.
The Dodgers have a whole season plus X number of playoff series to win. It's a tremendous bet. I'm on your side if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, please gamble responsibly.
Here's an interesting question. Do you call the fair the San Diego County Fair or the Del Mar Fair?
I finally taught myself to call it the San Diego County Fair, but it took over a decade of calling it the Del Mar Fair.
I call it the Del Mar Fair, even though it is the San Diego County Fair. Unless we're doing a live read for it, then obviously it's the San Diego County Fair. But to me, it's always the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and I've always called it the Del Mar Fair as a kid growing up.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Still like calling,
it's like
I don't know, Jack Murphy Stadium and Qualcomm Stadium.
The
right?
Murph and Qualcomm. Now, if you called Snapdragon Qualcomm, that'd be kind of weird, even though it's Snapdragon by Qualcomm.
Yeah.
Or if you called that the Murph, even though they got Jack Murphy, they got the statue over there, but that's 2 totally different things. I think you're calling it the same thing.
If you're standing in the gravel parking lot outside Snapdragon and you want to call that the Murph, you're at least a little more accurate,
right?
You're actually standing on the ground where it once was. It's still bizarre to be there, just to be there and see that and feel it. Snapdragon Stadium wound up being pretty cool. It's a pretty good place.
It's beautiful. They did a great job in building that facility. It's great. I mean, it's very much, and the thing is, it's a lot like the one TCU has. I mean, the way it was before TCU expanded that stadium. So, I mean, there is room for expansion with that place if they ever need to do that. Just from an engineering standpoint, it's totally doable. But I thought they did a great job of all the local products in town being a part of it, like Petco does, incorporating San Diego, incorporating kind of the lifestyle of sports watching that we have here in town. We're like group watching, bars and stuff and different outdoor spots and hangout spots, which seems to be the Southern California viewership of sports. I love it. They did a great job. But as you mentioned, not only just going there, but just driving down the 15 where the 8 meets, you're getting on the 8 and you get to see it's so weird when you're driving down 15 past our work. And right when, the 2 mesas here would open up and you would see the gigantic 68,000 seat Qualcomm Stadium, it's still weird to go down right before you get to Friars coming down 15 South, not seeing that stadium sit there, even though it's been a couple of years now. It's still weird to me not seeing it.
Sean in the chat, Ask Us Anything, says, Craig, what golf course anywhere in the world would you most want to play?
No questions asked, no money, just you get to play it.
Whew. I mean, I honestly haven't thought this through enough. I know Ben would just say Augusta.
I would say Augusta, absolutely.
It's probably Augusta, but to be honest, I've never played Pebble Beach, and if you told me that that's the only incredible course I could play, I'd feel like I didn't miss anything.
But it's not like it's exclusive. I mean, you could pay the money to play Pebble Beach. There's nothing really you can pay to play at Augusta.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess it's Augusta.
I would always say Augusta on that deal.
That's fine. It's Augusta. It's fine. Amen corner. So on and so forth. I get it. Edward says Kobe or LeBron.
That's a question for you.
Oh, you don't have an opinion?
I don't watch enough basketball to care.
It's LeBron.
Jordan.
I think it's LeBron. Of those two, I think it's LeBron. Just for his absolute consistency throughout his career. Kobe's had some sine waves, some up and down. LeBron has basically been the best, or one of the 10 best.
Call right now for Aztec tickets. 5th caller, you win tickets.
Boom.
We got to get that out.
Thank you. Call right now, 833-288-0973 if you want to go see the Aztecs play Wyoming tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at Viejas Arena. Braden, great job holding down the fort, man.
Good job, Craig. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully you have a boat to get out of here.
Annie Heilbrunn will be back with us for a full 4-hour show. Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang on 97.3 The Fan. Gwen and Chris are next.